the lights down just a little more. Yes, that's right. Let the room settle. Let the edges soften. A breath in, a breath out. Somewhere between the hum of your own breath and the softness of the dark, you feel a small tug, as if someone has gently taken you by the sleeve. And before you can object or ask who exactly is tugging, you're already drifting. You blink. And now, you wake up in ancient Rome, sometime in the quiet folds of the 1st century BCE, just before dawn has decided what kind of day it wants to be. There is good news, and naturally there is slightly less good news. The good news. You have arrived in a place where marble glows like old moonlight, where incense curls lazily, and where the city is still half asleep and unwilling to argue with you. The less good news, you seem to have arrived as someone rather important. Someone with responsibilities. Someone with a ceremonial hairstyle that will take hours to undo. You are, at least for this moment, one of the Vestal Virgins. The title sits on your shoulders like a shawl made of obligation and soft wool. You exhale. This will be fine. You only tend the sacred flame that keeps Rome safe, uphold layers of tradition older than most marble in this city, and move through life with a dignity that you hope will not trip you on the temple stairs. You brush your fingertips against the cool stone beside you. The air is still with a faint echo of night. Somewhere below, a kitchen slave stirs awake, metal brushing clay, preparing the first water for the day. The sky is still blue-black, like ink waiting for a quill. You draw another breath, and the world unfurls. The smell hits you first. A mixture of smoke, the soft, woody kind that clings to hair. A faint thread of rosemary from last night's offerings. A whisper of cold marble, which has its own scent, subtle and chalk-cool. Your hands feel the rough linen of your stola, its edges a little crisp from careful washing. Your bare feet rest on smooth stone that carries the night's chill. There is a taste in the air, something like dust, but the noble, ancient kind of dust that accumulates where senators tread. The temple is quiet except for the soft pop-pop-pop of the sacred fire breathing low. You roll your shoulders. The day hasn't even begun, and yet it already feels like a long morning waiting to happen. And this is only dawn. You straighten, adjusting the simple knot of your veil. The flame dances gently as if acknowledging you, or mocking you. You can't always tell. Flames can be dramatic like that. In this early hour, the temple lies in a kind of soft suspension. Outside, a rooster in some unfortunate neighborhood does its duty with more enthusiasm than accuracy. Cartwheel groans in the distance. But here, inside, the world is muffled. Even the sunlight seems to wait politely before entering. Your first task of the morning is simple. Observe. Observe the flame. Observe the quiet. Observe the way your breath makes the fire waver ever so slightly. And then you listen to the city's earliest complaints. A dog pacing, someone coughing, a pot being set down more firmly than necessary. Yes, Rome is waking. You move toward the small basin of water set aside for morning purification. The water is cool. You touch your fingertips to it and to your forehead. A ritual as light as a sigh. The temperature startles you awake, but gently, like a cat patting you with one soft paw. It smells faintly of clay amphora and last night's damp air. Rome likes its water rituals. Rome likes most rituals. You try your best to keep up. Still, this is only the beginning of your morning, and not even the demanding part. You step quietly along the temple's perimeter, feeling the faint grit beneath your feet, hearing the soft swish of linen around your legs. This early, the stone corridors smell slightly damp, like old libraries and rain-soaked cloaks. You pass an alcove where a bronze lamp burns low. You adjust it out of habit. You don't remember learning this habit. It feels like something the temple itself taught you. Outside, the dawn light finally decides to show up, brushing the top of the forum like powdered gold. You imagine Rome whispering, "Fine, I'm getting up." But you've already been up, and it's still very much morning. You take a slow breath and let it fill your ribs. The city carries its usual textures. Warm brick, cool marble, terracotta roofs, echoes bouncing between columns. A vendor somewhere is already shouting about figs. You admire the ambition. You are certainly not ready to shout about figs. Not yet. Somewhere behind you, one of the younger Vestals stirs. Her sandals scrape faintly. She is not a morning person. Few are. But she will pretend. You all pretend because the rituals require it, and rituals, you've discovered, are Rome's favorite method of keeping the universe orderly. You tie your hair a little tighter. You're awake now. Fully. Sort of. The early duties revolve around water and climate, elements that shape Rome as much as politics, though no one would ever publicly admit that water has more influence than senators. You step outside to the small garden behind the temple. Morning dew rests on the herbs, sage, laurel, fennel. You brush your hand across them, your fingertips collecting tiny droplets. The scent clings. The air outside holds the last of the night's coolness. Within an hour, the sun will assert itself, but for now it's tender. A slave girl quietly brings a jug of fresh water drawn just before sunrise. She nods. You nod. She places it near the basin. You catch the aroma. Clay, cold mineral earth, the faint sweetness of early morning river water. The Tiber may not be the cleanest companion in Rome, but at this hour it smells almost innocent. The dew settles on your veil, adding a mild chill. You wrap the fabric closer. Again, you're aware of the quiet. The world feels like soft parchment waiting for ink. Still, it isn't even mid-morning. You return to the inner chamber where the sacred flame, a symbol of Rome's eternal life, crackles just slightly more awake. You feed it a pinch of specially prepared wood. It accepts the offering, warming the edges of your hands. Then comes the simple morning food. Nothing dramatic, just a small portion of bread, still cool from storage, dipped in honey that has thickened overnight. You bite into it, and the grain leaves a soft texture on your tongue. Slightly coarse, slightly sweet. The honey coats your mouth like slow gold. You feel the energy seep in, though modestly, as if the bread is saying, "I'll help, but don't expect miracles." Breakfast in the house of the Vestals is less about indulgence and more about rhythm. Ritual. Pace. You eat slowly, listening to the crackle of the fire. A faint breeze sweeps through the doorway, carrying the scent of baked earth. Rome is warming, and it's still only breakfast. You smile into your bread. There is comfort in this predictability. After eating, you move toward the shelves of ceremonial objects. Bowls polished to a soft glow, ladles, small sacrificial tools whose edges have been dulled by centuries of respectful use. You feel the grain of the wooden handles, worn smooth by hundreds of hands. You gently wipe a thin layer of dust that has dared to settle overnight. This work is slow, purposeful, meditative. You feel yourself sinking deeper into the day, becoming part of the architecture, part of the air. This is still morning. Rome has begun to stir properly now. You hear sandals on stone, merchants shouting the day's promises, the flap of a canvas awning being rolled up. And you? You prepare for your duties, those involving people, hierarchy, etiquette. Yes, etiquette. Rome's second favorite pastime after ritual. As you pass through the temple's rear hall, you encounter one of the elder Vestals. She nods in that dignified way that suggests both approval and a reminder to maintain your posture. You adjust your spine reflexively. Her veil is arranged so perfectly that it seems immune to wind. She asks softly if the flame is steady this morning. You assure her it is. She nods again with that serene expression that seems to say, "As it should be." You admire her. You fear her slightly. A healthy balance, you think. Soon, you'll have to meet with a small delegation bringing offerings from a family seeking Rome's favor. These things require politeness, clarity, and a calm expression that suggests you slept wonderfully even if you did not. You walk to the entry courtyard. A family waits. Father, mother, and a boy clutching a small clay statuette. The father bows. The mother bows deeper. The boy studies you, uncertain whether you are a person or a living part of the temple. You greet them warmly, though softly. No need for grandeur. The courtyard smells like sun-warmed stone and laurel leaves. You accept the offering carefully, noting the weight of the clay figurine, the way the boy's hands tremble just slightly, perhaps from awe, perhaps from lack of breakfast. Ritual words are exchanged, wishes spoken. Hopes whispered. You guide them gently through the gestures. They leave looking comforted, or at least less tense. You exhale. The sun has climbed. The temple's shadows shrink. And somehow, it's still only late morning. You head back inside. This is when the day begins to thicken. Responsibilities layer themselves quietly. Someone needs help organizing written records. Another Vestal needs someone to accompany her to fetch a ceremonial item. A scribe needs confirmation on a date. It all piles up like parchment scrolls. You do it all calmly, slowly, like the day is stretching long and lazy before you. Then come the dangers, not dramatic ones, but the subtle Roman variety. The threat of offending someone important by accident. The risk of misinterpreting a ritual. The minor but real possibility of tripping on your own stola in front of a senator. And, of course, illness. Fevers that roll through Rome whenever the weather shifts, or the subtle headaches caused by too much sun on too little sleep. You think about these dangers briefly, then you let them go. 'Cause right now you are here, at the flame, in the soft golden hush of the day. And now the thoughts settle into reflection. Romance versus reality. People think the Vestals live in an effortless world of marble and privilege. They imagine serene faces floating through halls like divine swans. They imagine elegance, mystery, perfection. And yes, some of it is real. But there is also dust, and tired arms, and early mornings, and endless rituals that demand patience. Yet Romans admire you. Children stare with reverence. Even senators become careful with their words around you. And the temple itself feels like a steady presence, holding you upright. There is a certain romance in that. Quiet, understated. A comfort rather than a thrill. You touch the stone wall gently. Warm now. The day is growing. You stand for a long moment with your palm on the warm stone, feeling the heartbeat of the temple in your fingertips. The sounds of Rome filter in as if through layers of cloth. Distant wheels, a scatter of voices, someone laughing too loudly for this hour, a hammer striking metal, all softened by distance and stone. You draw your hand back, and the warmth lingers on your skin. The elder Vestal passes by again, her steps slow but decisive. She glances at you, not unkindly, as if to say, "The day won't slow down just because you want another moment to think." You give the wall one last pat, like saying goodbye to an old friend, and turn back toward the heart of your morning. Your tasks now take on a more official flavor. A junior priest arrives, carrying a small basket of ritual items wrapped in clean cloth. The basket smells faintly of olive oil, resin, and freshly shaved wood. He bows his head, clearing his throat as if trying to sound older than he is. You recognize the effort. Rome loves a deep, authoritative voice. He does not quite have one yet. You accept the basket, fingers brushing the rough weave of the fibers. The weight is modest, but the symbolism is not. Everything here is about weight and meaning, how you carry it, how you present it, how you keep your hands steady even when the world outside is spinning through politics and gossip. You walk slowly, matching your pace to the hush of the temple floor. Inside the inner sanctuary, the air is warmer. The sacred flame burns with more confidence now, no longer shy and half asleep. You kneel, not a dramatic, sweeping motion, but a practiced, careful one. The stone is firm beneath your knees, smoothing your posture whether you like it or not. You unwrap the cloth from the basket. The scent rises. Resinous incense, sharp and sweet at once. You measure out a careful pinch between your fingers. Just enough to honor, never enough to overwhelm. The grains feel like tiny pebbles of perfume. You drop them onto the fire. The response is immediate. A soft hiss. A twist of smoke, pale and fragrant, curling in lazy ribbons. The smoke climbs up, tracing invisible patterns in the sacred space. You inhale gently, feeling the faint sting in your nose, the sweetness on the back of your tongue. The room smells now of pine, honey, and the faint memory of last night's burnt offerings. For a moment, you do nothing but sit and breathe, letting the smoke thread itself into your hair and clothes. If you ever left the temple and walked among the crowds, people would know where you came from before you opened your mouth. You carry the smell of the flame like a name. And this is still before noon. You rise carefully, adjusting your veil, making sure it falls in the modest, precise way that is expected of you. The fabric slides across your shoulders, soft but firm, like a reminder you can't take off. One of the younger Vestals appears at the doorway, bringing with her a whisper of cooler air. She clutches a small tablet with notes, lines of wax etched with neat letters. Her sandals whisper against the stone. "There's a matter with the records," she murmurs, almost apologizing with her eyes for disturbing you. "Of course there is. There is always a matter with the records." You follow her down a corridor lined with simple lamps. The air here smells of wax, old parchment, and the faint metallic tang of ink. Inside the records room, shelves stretch up like quiet, wooden sentinels. Clay tablets and scrolls rest in orderly rows, a forest of knowledge that, frankly, you are always mildly afraid of misplacing. On a low table, a scribe sits hunched like a patient bird, stylus in hand. He looks up as you enter, relief flickering over his face. He gestures to a small cluster of tablets. "There is a confusion in the dates," he explains. "On this one, the dedication of a certain offering is listed as the calends, but here," he taps another tablet. "It says nones." "Ah yes, the glorious puzzle of calendars." You lean over, feeling the smooth coolness of the clay under your fingertips. Each symbol has been carved carefully, each line deliberate. You run through the memories in your mind, rituals, processions, the order of ceremonies. The room is quiet enough that you can hear your own breath, the faint scratching of another stylus in the corner, the soft flap of a curtain stirred by the outside breeze. You close your eyes briefly, summoning the sequence of events. You remember the arrangement of garlands, the position of the sun, the order of offerings. You speak slowly, correcting the date. The scribe nods vigorously, relief softening his features, and makes the adjustment with careful strokes. Your mind is a calendar now, a quiet machine measuring sacred time. You feel the weight of it, but also a strange contentment. There is something comforting in being needed for something as simple as remembering when the incense was lit. The younger Vestal thanks you with a shy smile. You wave it away lightly, making a small joke about being less helpful when it comes to remembering where you set down your own hairpins. She laughs, the sound bright in the quiet room. It loosens your shoulders. Outside, the day has leaned into its own heat. As you step into the courtyard, the sunlight presses against your skin like warm linen straight from the hearth. Shadows shrink. The white surfaces of the temple almost glow, forcing your eyes to narrow. You catch the scent of hot stone, distant cooking fires, and city dust stirred up by countless feet. The temple slaves move about with efficient, practiced motions, carrying water, sweeping stone, adjusting awnings. Their tunics are lighter, their skin sheened with the first hint of sweat. One of them passes with a jug of water. The clay sweats cool droplets in the heat. You accept a small cup, pressing it to your lips. The water is cool, tasting faintly of mineral and clay. It slides down your throat like shade. The junior Vestals gather in the partial shadow of a colonnade. You join them for a short break, the kind that is not technically in any ritual text but is deeply sanctioned by common sense. You sit on a low bench, feeling the stone warmed by sun and by other people's weight. One girl complains softly about the heat. Another admits she woke in the night from a strange dream about the flame refusing to be lit. You listen, half amused, half sympathetic. The worries of Vestals are rarely ordinary, but they are still, at their core, simply worries. The air smells faintly of sweat, oil from hair, and roasting grain from some nearby kitchen. You notice every detail because your world is made of them. And still, it isn't midday. Soon, a messenger arrives. A young man with dust on his sandals and anxiety on his face. He bows low, nearly dropping the small sealed tablet he carries. You recognize the seal of the Pontifex Maximus, the high priest of Rome. That always adds a small extra weight to the air. The elder Vestal appears, her presence quiet but commanding. She takes the tablet, breaks the seal with calm fingers, and scans the text. Her eyes move quickly. You try very hard not to look curious. After a moment, she turns to you and the others. There will be a small rite at midday, she says. A request for favor concerning upcoming matters of state. She doesn't name them. She doesn't need to. Prepare the necessary items. Simplicity, but precision. You nod along with the others. Simplicity, but precision. The motto of half your life. You return inside, the coolness of the interior brushing your skin like a damp cloth. In the storeroom, you gather the items. A small bronze bowl, polished so thoroughly that it reflects your face in a ghostly blur. A measure of wine, dark and fragrant. A handful of carefully selected grain. Each object has its own texture, its own temperature, cold metal, smooth ceramic, soft weight of grain between your palms. You arrange them on a tray, every placement deliberate. The tray itself bears faint scratches from years of similar tasks. The scratches comfort you. They say, many days have happened before this one. Many will come after. In the inner space, you set everything down near the flame. The room is warm, but not suffocating. Just enough to make the back of your neck damp, to make the air dense with incense and expectation. When the time comes, the Pontifex arrives with a small entourage. You hear them before you see them. The measured steps, the faint clink of decorative metal, the low murmur of voices practicing their most respectful tone. You lower your gaze in greeting, the movement smooth from repetition. His presence fills the room like another column. Heavy, structural, not entirely flexible. He exchanges a few low words with the elder Vestal, their conversation as polite and opaque as always. The rite itself is not long. That's the thing about many important events in Rome. The preparation is half the story, and the visible part is a brief whisper. You stand at your place, participating with gestures so familiar they might as well be part of your own heartbeat. A tilt of a bowl. A measured pour of wine, dark liquid catching the firelight. The faint hiss as it meets the edge of the coals. A cascade of grain. A soft rustle like rain on a roof. The smoke rises thicker for a moment. The smell of wine vapor and heated grain mixing with incense. You feel it in your lungs, in your eyes. You keep your face calm. It is easier now than it once was. The Pontifex intones a formula, his voice low and measured. The words drift around you, familiar patterns that you could recite in your sleep. Perhaps you have. The others respond in practiced tones. When it is over, the room feels lighter, though no one would admit to feeling relief. The Pontifex offers a final nod to the elder Vestal and departs. His entourage flowing around him like obedient water. Silence settles again, almost grateful. You exhale. You didn't realize you were holding your breath. You look at the flame, alive and steady. It does not seem particularly impressed by the high priest of Rome. Now, at last, the day has tilted past its first peak. The light outside is strong. You are beginning to think of food again. Midday meals in the house of the Vestals are modest but not unpleasant. You sit on a low couch in a shaded dining room. The air here cooler, touched by a faint breeze that threads through latticework. The walls hold simple decorations, garlands on festival days, but today only pale plaster and a few painted vines. In front of you, a small plate of barley porridge, generously smoothed with a drizzle of olive oil and sprinkled with herbs. A few olives, glossy and briny. A piece of cheese, firm and slightly tangy. And wheat bread, soft in the middle, crusty at the edges. You taste the porridge first. It's warm, thick, gently salted, with a soft hint of thyme on your tongue. The texture is comforting, almost childlike. The cheese offers more resistance, crumbling slightly under your fingers, leaving a lingering richness on your lips. The olives greet you with their sharp, salty insistence, making your mouth water in a way that feels like a tiny, edible awakening. The conversation around the table is muted. One Vestal mentions a rumor she overheard of a grand new house being built by some ambitious senator. Another quietly notes the price of grain. You listen, you nod, but your body is mostly occupied with the simple act of eating, of refueling for the hours ahead. You drink diluted wine, cool and faintly sour, tasting of grapes and sun and patience. The cup is smooth against your fingers, the rim worn from use. When you are finished, you lean back very slightly, letting your shoulders drop a fraction. You wouldn't call it luxury exactly, but it is rest. And that, in Rome, is its own kind of privilege. Of course, that the world outside thinks of you as almost untouchable. The Vestals are protected by law, granted seats of honor at games, given a kind of solemn sparkle in the public imagination. Children point when they see you pass, whispering as though you are halfway made of myth. And there is romance in that, yes. But there is also barley porridge, and record-keeping, and learning to stand for long ceremonies without your knees complaining out loud. Reality, you think, is always a little less shiny up close. After the meal comes the quietest part of the day, the early afternoon hush. Even the city outside seems to exhale and loosen its belt. Some Vestals retire briefly to their chambers. Others remain near the flame. Your own chamber is small but not unpleasant. A narrow bed with a wool blanket, a chest for your few personal items, a simple lamp. The walls are plain, touched here and there by fading paint. A narrow slit of a window lets in a slice of light, dust drifting through it in lazy patterns. You sit on the edge of the bed for a moment, running your fingers over the wool of the blanket. The slightly scratchy, familiar. There is a faint smell of oil, clean linen, and the echo of incense clinging to your clothes. You close your eyes. Your body hums with the day already behind you. And yet, we are only in the first half of this day. There is still afternoon. There is still evening. There is still night, with its watchfulness and its flame. You lie down just for a moment, feeling the mattress give slightly under your weight. You don't fully sleep. Vestals are rarely allowed to fall entirely off the edge of consciousness during the day, but you drift. The sounds of the temple become distant. Footsteps blur. Voices turn to soft shapes. Your last clear sensation before you half-doze is of the stone beneath the building, solid and immense, holding all of you up. Beneath that, the earth. Beneath that, who knows? Rome doesn't concern itself with such depths. It prefers things it can record on tablets. You let your mind float there in that pause, in that tender space between waking thoughts and soft nothing. Outside, the sacred flame continues to burn, unbothered by your moment of rest. And despite everything that has already happened, the rituals, the visits, the heat of the midday sun, this is still not the end of your day. It is, wonderfully, only the beginning of the afternoon. And you are still here, in the temple, with the flame. We have only just begun. You rest on the narrow bed for only a few breaths, or perhaps longer. Time in the temple has a way of becoming soft around the edges, like parchment left in the sun. You rise again when the air shifts, when the breeze through the tiny window gains a faint warmth that tells you midday is drifting away. Your legs feel light as you stand, the way they do when you rise from a quiet moment but know you're not entirely finished with resting. Your sandals whisper against the stone floor as you make your way back into the corridor. The coolness of the hallway wraps around you, relief after the sun-soaked courtyard. You walk slowly, not out of lethargy but because the temple practically demands it. A hurried Vestal would look as strange as a running statue. There is a rhythm here, a pulse of stone and duty that tugs your steps into deliberate calm. The afternoon light filters in through high windows, creating long pale rectangles on the floor. Dust floats in them like drifting silver. The air smells of warm plaster, faint smoke, and the resin from earlier rites, still lingering in the corners. You breathe it in. It becomes a part of you. At the edge of the courtyard, you see two young Vestals bent over a basket of laurel leaves, sorting them for the evening offerings. Their fingers move with unhurried precision. They greet you with shy nods. One of them holds up a leaf for your opinion, though she already knows it's acceptable. Sometimes, it seems, they simply want reassurance that they are learning the quiet art of discernment. You sit beside them for a moment. The leaves are cool and slightly waxy under your fingertips. They smell faintly sharp, like green shade on a hot day. The girls talk softly about the texture of each leaf, the way some curve like tiny boats and others lie flat like miniature plates. Their voices have the warm, drifting quality of mid-afternoon conversations, when everything feels a bit softened by the sun. Beyond the courtyard walls, Rome hums faintly, not loudly. Heat slows even the most energetic merchants, but steadily. A vendor calls out about fresh figs with a voice that sounds half-melted. Someone somewhere beats laundry against stone. A donkey complains dramatically. You smile into the leaves. It's the small noises that make a city real. The heroes and senators rarely appear in the sounds. After a while, you leave the younger girls to their laurel sorting and move toward the sacred hearth again. The flame burns steadily, taller now than in the morning, its orange light breathing against the bronze rim. The heat touches your skin before you even reach it, like a warm hand offered in greeting. You check the wood reserves at the side of the hearth. The pieces are smooth, polished by handling, their resin scent rising in soft waves. You lift one, appreciating its weight, and lay it gently onto the flame. The fire accepts it with a low sigh. The temple hums around you. You feel it in your bones, a vibration made of history and footsteps and 1,000 whispered prayers. You sit before the flame for a moment, letting the warmth draw the last of the drowsiness from your limbs. And then there it is again, that small tug of responsibility, the afternoon task stirring. One of the temple attendants approaches, a woman older than most, with clever eyes and a posture that refuses to apologize for its age. She carries a bundle of cloth, white linen freshly cleaned and folded so precisely it almost looks like carved marble. "These need to be prepared for tomorrow," she says softly. You take them, pressing the bundle to your chest. The linen is cool at first, then warms quickly against your skin. You carry it to a side room with low benches and a single window that lets in a gentle, slanted light. Preparing garments is one of those tasks that sounds simple but hides its complexity. Every fold must be precise, every cord tied with measured neatness. You smooth the linen on your lap, fingers tracing its fine weave. It smells faintly of river water, sunlight, and the herbal rinse used by the temple's laundresses. The room carries a hush, the kind that invites thought. As you fold, your mind wanders, not far, but softly. You think of your first day in the temple, of feeling dwarfed by the marble, of trying not to trip over your own stola. You think of the elder Vestal's voice, calm and unbothered by your nervousness. You think of the first time you approached the flame, wondering whether it would somehow know you were new. You smile at the memory. The flame, naturally, had not cared. By the time you finish with the garments, the shadows in the room have grown longer, thinning at the edges like ink diluted with water. The light is turning gold. Late afternoon is stretching itself, preparing to become evening. You step into the corridor again and feel the shift in temperature as if the day has exhaled. The stones under your feet have softened their heat. A breeze from the outer garden carries the smell of basil, dry earth, and the faint sweetness of grapes ripening somewhere nearby. Somewhere behind you, laughter echoes, soft, restrained, but real. Two Vestals are talking about something one of the temple slaves said earlier. You don't catch the words, only the warmth of the moment. You let it pass through you like sunlight through thin cloth. Ahead, in the courtyard, a pair of acolytes are drawing water from the cistern, their movements unhurried but steady. The rope creaks gently as the bucket rises. The water gleams in the late light, shimmering like a small captured sky. They carry it toward the basin reserved for evening purification. You follow them. The basin is carved stone, smooth from centuries of hands, shaped like a shallow, generous bowl. The water splashes softly as they pour it in. Ripples travel outward in concentric rings that catch the golden light. You wash your hands, dipping them slowly. The water is cool, almost startling against the heat lingering in your skin. You feel the texture of the surface, the slight resistance before your fingers break through. Droplets cling to your wrists, sliding down like tiny beads. The air smells faintly of wet stone and evening calm. This part of the day always feels like a hinge, a quiet turning from the active duties of noon toward the slower ones of dusk. You can sense the temple settling. The flame itself seems more relaxed, its edges softer, its color deeper. You make your way toward the outer steps of the temple, where you are sometimes allowed to sit briefly and watch the forum. This is not relaxation in the casual way the outside world might imagine it. This is a kind of witnessing, a presence. But it is still a gift. You take your place on the steps, arranging your veil with practiced fingers. Below, the forum hums, still lively, but with a more measured pace. Merchants bargain in softer tones. Children kick a ball of rags. A pair of senators stroll as if the dust ought to move out of their path. A woman sells herbal poultices with a persuasive tilt of her head. The sunlight is low now, brushing everything in warm bronze. Rome looks softer. Less like a city always ready for argument and more like a place simply existing, breathing, sighing, like any person at the end of a long day. A boy runs past chasing a dog, laughing breathlessly. The dog looks far more serious than he does. A flock of pigeons erupts into the air, their wings beating in a flurry of sound that softens as they scatter. You sit there, watching, letting the world play out below you like a quiet, unscripted performance. Your hands rest in your lap. The stone beneath you is warm but cooling quickly. A part of you imagines what it would be like to walk among the crowd, unrecognizable, without the veil, blending into the hum of ordinary life. But it's only a fleeting curiosity. Your place is here, and the city seems to fold around that fact, as natural as dusk folding over day. After a time, the elder Vestal appears behind you. You sense her presence first in the way the air seems to adjust itself. She sits beside you, lowering herself with dignified ease. "You are watching Rome breathe," she says quietly. "Yes," you answer. She nods, satisfied with your answer, though you're not entirely sure there was a wrong one. "Evening duties soon," she reminds you gently. You rise with her, your movements synchronized from years of shared ritual. The forum lies below you like a painting turning slowly into night. Back inside, the temple feels cooler. Shadows gather like soft fabric in the corners. Lamps are being lit one by one, each flame small but determined. Their glow reflects in shallow bronze bowls, doubling the light, making it seem as though the walls themselves are beginning to exhale warmth. Your next task is to prepare the minor offerings for the evening. These are simpler than the midday rites but no less important. A small bowl of grain, a measure of wine, a piece of unleavened bread. You arrange them with care, feeling the rough surface of the bread, the fine grains slipping like sand between your fingers, the cool weight of the wine vessel. Everything smells subtly richer in the evening. Grain more earthy, wine more fragrant, the temple air thicker with the day's warmth. You feel it all settle inside you. The rite begins as the sky shifts from gold to rose to a deepening blue. You stand near the flame, its warmth brushing your cheek. Other Vestals take their places around the hearth with quiet steps. The elder Vestal leads with gestures slower than earlier in the day, as though the evening demands a gentler pace. You add the grain first, a soft pour, a whispering sound. The scent rises, warm and nostalgic. Then the wine, offered delicately, the liquid catching amber from the flame before it evaporates, sending a small plume of scented vapor into the air. The bread is placed last, set near the heat until it grows fragrant. The ritual isn't long. Evening rites rarely are. The purpose is calm, continuity, recognition that the flame and Rome endures through every hour. When it is done, everyone bows their head. For a moment, silence swells, gentle and thick, like velvet draped over the world. The flame crackles softly, as if clearing its throat after the quiet. You look at it for a long moment. It looks back in its own way. Night has arrived quietly, like a cat stepping through shadows. You step away from the hearth as lamps are adjusted, wicks trimmed, oil replenished. The younger Vestals move with renewed focus. Perhaps the cooler air grants them energy the heat had dissolved. Your body feels pleasantly heavy with the day's weight. Not tired, exactly, but grounded. You walk down the corridor toward your chamber again. The air grows cooler with each step. A faint breeze slips through the window corridor, carrying the smell of night herbs, distant cooking fires, and the sweetness of baked bread drifting from somewhere in the city. The temple has changed character now. The daytime rustle has quieted. The marble seems to hum with a softer pitch. Footsteps echo farther. In your chamber, a small oil lamp already burns. Its light is gentle, shaped like a soft teardrop. You sit on your bed, exhaling slowly, letting the day fall from your shoulders. You stretch your fingers unconsciously. They smell faintly of grain, linen, and smoke. Somewhere in the distance, a night bird calls. Somewhere on the other side of the temple, someone laughs softly. Somewhere across Rome, countless lives are folding into evening, and you are here, still in the house of the Vestals, still watching over the flame, still part of the breath of this ancient, restless, beautiful city. The night has only just begun, and there is more to tell. Night settles over the house of the Vestals like a velvet cloak, drawing soft, breathable darkness into every corner. The lamps burn lower now, their flames tilting gently with each passing draft, their glow warm against the pale walls. Shadows lengthen, stretching like sleepy animals ready to curl at your feet. You sit for a while on the edge of your narrow bed, letting the quiet seep into your bones. The chamber is modest, but at night it feels almost luxurious. Not because of its contents, but because the world has finally grown still enough for you to exist without being watched, greeted, bowed to, or summoned. You exhale slowly, pressing your palms against the wool blanket. The surface is slightly rough, catching against your skin like the familiar rasp of lived-in fabric. The air smells of cool stone, calming oil, and the faint lingering smoke from the temple hearth that clings to your hair and veil. You imagine it will cling to you for the rest of your life, and you find you do not mind. But just as your shoulders begin to loosen, a soft knock comes at your door. Barely a sound, just a hint of knuckles against wood. You rise and open it. A young acolyte stands there with a shy glance down the hall, as though he's afraid to be overheard by anyone, including the walls. He carries a small message tablet sealed with wax. "The elder Vestal requests your presence," he whispers. Of course she does. Evening may be settling, but duties don't retire until well past sleep. You step into the hallway, its coolness brushing your ankles, and follow the boy's careful footsteps. The lamps here flicker in their niches, causing the shadows to sway lazily across the walls. The corridor smells faintly of olive oil, fresh clay, and night air drifting through unseen cracks. The elder Vestal waits near the inner sanctuary. No throne, no grandeur, only the flame reflected in her calm eyes. She looks as if she has been carved from the marble around her, though you know she has lived enough years to have once been as unsure as you. "There is a request," she says without turning, her voice soft as the flames sigh. "A small matter. A family seeks blessing for safe travel at dawn. You may oversee the offering." You nod. Your tasks today have unfolded like layers of parchment. Each thin, each simple, yet stacked thicker than expected. The family has arrived at the temple's outer threshold, lingering just beyond the line where only the initiated may pass. A man and woman, their clothes dusty from the day's labor, hold the hands of a girl who looks no more than 8. Her hair is braided neatly, her eyes wide with the awe of night. You greet them with the formality required, but soften your tone so the child does not shy away. The mother steps forward, placing a small woven basket at your feet. Inside, a modest offering of dried figs, a handful of herbs, and a thread of wool dyed in gentle saffron. The scent rises quietly. Earth, sun-dried sweetness, herbal calm. The girl peeks around her mother's leg, her gaze flicking from your veil to your sandals to the faint glow behind you. You meet her eyes for a moment and give a reassuring nod. She seems to take courage from the gesture. You lift the basket with careful hands. Its weight is light, humbler than the offerings brought by senators and magistrates, but somehow more heartfelt. You bring it to the hearth, setting it down near the bronze bowl where minor offerings gather before they are blessed. The ritual is simple, warm, intimate. You light a small sliver of resin and let it smoke, swirling lightly around your fingers. You whisper the appropriate words, steady and low, feeling them resonate from a place inside you that has grown familiar with sacred rhythms. The elder Vestal stands nearby, watching with the expression of someone quietly grading your form, though her eyes remain kind. The child stares at the flame with a look of wonder, her face lit in amber glow. For a moment you see yourself in her, wide-eyed, unsteady, drawn to the fire not by rule but by something deeper. When the blessing is done, you step back outside. The family bows, perhaps deeper than they need to. You wish them safe travels. The girl waves a tiny hand before her mother gently lowers it, remembering propriety. You pretend not to notice. The night deepens. Back inside, the temple grows hushed. The attendants and acolytes have drifted toward their quarters. Only the Vestals and the flame remain, bound together by a duty that does not sleep. This is the time of the night watches. The flame cannot be left alone, not even for a breath. There must always be someone near it. A guardian, a witness, a quiet companion. Tonight it is partly your turn. You sit near the hearth on a low wooden stool, your knees drawn close, the heat warming your shins through the fabric of your stola. The flame sways lazily, its crackling softened to a cat-like rumble. You wrap your arms around yourself, not out of cold, but because the night air carries a gentler kind of solitude. The room smells sweet with resin, heavy with warmth, tinged with a subtle metallic scent from the bronze brazier. It is a comfortable smell, one you know better than your own. The temple around you feels like a great sleeping animal, massive, peaceful, slow of breath. Every creak of wood, every whisper of wind through the columns seems magnified in the quiet. Another Vestal sits across from you, older, with a face eased by years of firelight. She nods, acknowledging your presence. You share the silence like a blanket, wordless, but understood. For a long time, nothing happens. You listen, you breathe, you watch the flame move as if it is thinking. Then soft footsteps behind you. A Vestal in her middle years approaches, carrying a small tray with warm spiced milk in clay cups. This is one of the temple's quiet kindnesses, offered during the late hours when bodies grow tired but eyes must stay open. She sets the tray between you and the older Vestal. The steam curls upward, carrying the scent of cinnamon, heated grain, and a trace of honey. You wrap your hands around the cup, letting the warmth seep into your fingers. The first sip is gentle, soothing, slightly sweet. It nestles in your stomach like a soft blanket. You don't speak. None of you do. But there is comfort in the shared ritual. Time loosens. Minutes stretch. The flame whispers. Night deepens into its quietest hour. Eventually, the older Vestal rises and takes her leave, nodding to her replacement. You remain for a while longer. Your body feels pleasantly heavy, your eyelids soft at the edges. The milk has warmed you from the inside out. A faint breeze enters through a high window, carrying the smell of night-cooled stone and distant torch smoke from the forum. Even Rome sleeps more deeply at this hour, though never entirely. You decide it's time to stretch your legs. You rise slowly, your joints murmuring their quiet protests. With a final look at the flame, steady, safe, you step into the corridor. The temple at night is different. The walls feel closer. The air holds its breath. Lamps flicker with longer shadows. You walk softly, as though a loud step might wake the marble. You pass by an open archway where an acolyte sleeps curled on a mat, his cloak bundled beneath his head. His breathing is slow, peaceful. You continue, smiling faintly at the innocence of it. In the outer courtyard, the night sky stretches vast and deep. The stars blink through the faint haze of city smoke, forming patterns both familiar and forgotten. They are bright tonight, bright enough to catch on the edges of the temple roof, bright enough to pierce through the heat left lingering on the stones. You step closer to the garden. The herbs there release their scents more boldly at night. Mint, sage, basil, and lavender lift into the air, mingling like a quiet chorus. You brush your fingers over the leaves, letting the cool dew touch your skin, letting the fragrance linger on your fingertips. The night feels almost tender. You sit on the low edge of the fountain, running your hand along the smooth stone. The water inside glimmers faintly, reflecting a sliver of the moon. It is still, undisturbed, like a bowl of captured sky. You breathe out, long and slow. After a while, you return to the inner chambers. The flame greets you with a steady glow, as if it has been waiting for you. Another Vestal nods as you pass her, preparing for her own watch. Your room is warmer when you enter, the lamp still flickering with quiet devotion. You remove your sandals, feeling the stone cool beneath your feet. You sit on the bed again, your body grateful for the pause. You lay down carefully, pulling the wool blanket up to your shoulders. It smells faintly of clean linen and the faint smoke of countless evenings. You close your eyes. The temple hums gently. Your breath slows. Night rests on your chest like a soft, warm cat. And somewhere in the sanctuary, the flame continues its slow dance, eternal, watchful, warm. The last thing you feel before drifting half asleep is a sense of being held. Not by duty, not by ritual, but by quiet belonging. Another night in Rome. Another night in the house of the Vestals. And still, your story is far from finished. Morning comes quietly, not with a dramatic flare of sunlight, but with a soft brightening around the edges of your closed eyes. The temple does not wake quickly. It stretches into the day with the same slow dignity it demands from you. You stir beneath the wool blanket, feeling its familiar weight, the faint chill of early dawn brushing your face like a cautious hand. Your eyelids lift. The chamber is dim, washed in a bluish hush. The oil lamp near the doorway burns low, its wick making a tiny crackle as if whispering, "Yes, yes, the night is over." You rise carefully, mindful of the stiffness in your shoulders. The stone floor is cold against your feet, but pleasantly so, like dipping your toes into a stream after hours walking under the sun. You sit on the edge of the bed for a few breaths, grounding yourself in the stillness. Nothing rushes here. Everything begins with small, deliberate motions. You wrap your veil around your shoulders and step into the corridor. The air is cool, scented with lavender, night-damp stone, and the faint bitter sweetness of extinguished lamps. The temple walls hold the last traces of the night like a memory they don't quite want to release. Your footsteps echo softly, accompanied by the occasional creak from old wood somewhere behind the walls. Dawn is quiet in Rome, and even quieter in the house of the Vestals. No clatter of carts yet. No shouts from vendors. Just the faint hint of a city exhaling sleep. When you reach the sanctuary, the flame greets you brighter than you expect. Tall, confident, already awake. A Vestal who kept the last watch sits beside it, blinking slowly, as if she hasn't quite separated herself from the dream she drifted into while sitting upright. She nods to you. You nod back. No words needed. You kneel before the flame. The warmth rolls toward you in gentle waves, touching your cheeks first, then your hands, then your chest. The smell of warm ash mixes with the faint pine resin lingering from last night's offerings. You breathe it in, feeling the familiar comfort settle behind your ribs. The first task of the dawn is simple renewal. You lift a small bundle of kindling, twigs shaved thin, smelling of fresh wood and the cool bite of the morning. The bark leaves a dusty residue on your fingers. You add it to the fire. The flame hisses in approval, brightening briefly. A whisper of smoke curls upward, drifting toward the high vents above like a slow, thoughtful dancer. You feel the day beginning. After tending the flame, you proceed to the purification basin. The water there is newly drawn. You can tell by the sharp coolness in the air around it and by the small beads of condensation forming on its stone rim. The water's surface is flat and silver, catching the pale early light. You dip your fingers in, cold, clean, a tiny shock that wakes your nerves. You touch your forehead lightly, then your hairline. The droplets trail down your skin, carrying away the last traces of sleep. When you inhale, the air feels clearer. A small part of you, one that wakes only in these early hours, wonders how many mornings like this you've lived. Countless, surely, and yet each one feels like the first morning in Rome. You dry your hands on linen cloth and step into the quiet courtyard. Here, the light is faint gold, just beginning to gather on the tops of the columns. The herbs in the small garden give off their early scent. Mint chilled by dew, rosemary still half asleep, damp earth exhaling warmth as the sun touches it. You brush your fingertips across a rosemary sprig. The scent bursts like a soft green spark, clinging to your skin. A few young acolytes arrive carrying baskets. They move like shadows, their tunics fluttering lightly. They begin sweeping the courtyard, careful not to disturb the silence. You nod to them, and one of the boys smiles sleepily. His hair looks like he lost a wrestling match with his own pillow. You pretend not to notice. Soon, other Vestals appear, emerging from doorways like pale ghosts in mourning veils. Their footsteps echo, soft and rhythmic. A few carry tablets for morning records. Others drift instinctively toward the flame for their first task. The early morning routines unfurl quietly. You join a small group preparing the ingredients for the day's offerings. On a low stone table rest bowls of barley grains, each grain pale and smooth as a tiny pebble. You run your fingers through them, feeling the soft trickle as they fall back into the bowl. Next to them sits a jar of olive oil, thick and golden, catching the morning light. You uncork it, releasing a rich aroma. Sun, warmth, and pressed fruit. Your hands move with memory rather than thought. A pinch of grain into one bowl, a small measure of oil into another. Inspect the linen wrappings. Check for cracks in the ceremonial vessels. The sun climbs slowly, warming your shoulders. The air shifts with the day's awakening. Soon, Rome will begin its usual chorus. Calls of merchants, clang of metal, footsteps on stone. But for now, the world feels held in a soft pause. You finish preparing the small items and carry them to the sanctuary. A faint murmur already fills the space. Two Vestals are quietly discussing the day's calendar. You overhear something about a minor ceremony scheduled near midday. Nothing grand but enough to require extra hands. You take note without needing to say a word. The temple slaves begin their morning tasks now, moving with practiced quiet. One girl carries a jug of fresh water balanced expertly on her shoulder. Another boy dusts the low altars with gentle strokes, careful not to breathe too strongly near anything fragile. The fragrance of damp clay and cool water drifts in their wake. You step back outside for a brief breath of air. The sunlight has gained strength, but the shadows of the colonnade still offer cool relief. You sit on a stone bench for a moment, letting the breeze brush your veil. The wind brings with it the early sounds of Rome beginning its day. A cart will squeak somewhere beyond the temple wall. A distant dog barks twice. A woman selling bread warms her voice with the first calls of her trade. A rooster, late to his duties, crows as if making excuses. The world stretches and wakes. You rise when one of the younger Vestals approaches you with an anxious expression. Her hands clasp the edges of her veil as though she fears it might fly away. "There's a small matter with the shelves," she murmurs. "There always is." You follow her into one of the storage rooms where ceremonial items and scrolls live in peaceful disarray. A shelf has shifted slightly, probably from humidity, causing a few objects to lean precariously. Nothing dramatic, certainly not temple shaking, but enough to bother someone who takes pride in order. You press your hand against the wooden beam. It's slightly warm, smelling of aged resin and the faint dust of ancient offerings. You adjust the shelf with a careful push, feeling the wood groan softly. The leaning objects settle with quiet relief. The younger girl exhales, visibly calmer already. "Thank you," she whispers. You nod, brushing a stray cobweb from your sleeve. Even sacred spaces have spiders who believe in their own importance. When you step back into the hallway, the light has changed once more. It carries the warmth of mid-morning now, not yet heavy, but insistent, creeping along stone surfaces like a tame flame. The temple becomes a place of brightness, softened by white veils and polished marble. You make your way toward the inner atrium, where the elder Vestal awaits. Her posture is straight, composed, as though she has already lived half a dozen rituals today before breakfast. She greets you with a slight incline of her head. "There will be visitors soon," she says. "A minor official and his wife. They seek approval for dedicating a small portion of their land. You will observe." You accept your assignment with a mild nod. Observing is often more demanding than acting. Watching, listening, and keeping your expression neutral require their own kind of endurance. The official arrives with a briskness entirely inappropriate for the temple. His footsteps echo far too loudly. His wife, however, has the calm solemnity of someone who understands sacred spaces. She carries a small offering wrapped in linen. You can smell it even before she reveals it. A hint of dried herbs, grapes, and fragrant bark. The ritual is small and quick. You stand at the side, hands folded, eyes respectful but present. The official's voice wavers when he speaks the required words. Perhaps the flame makes him nervous. His wife carries the moment with more grace. When they leave, the temple air seems to settle again, as though smoothing out wrinkles made by too much talking. Your next task brings you back toward the garden. There, a temple attendant tends to the herb beds, snipping leaves with careful precision. She hands you a small bunch of fresh mint, cool and sharp between your fingers. For the midday meal, she says. You thank her, breathing in the mint's crisp scent. Clears your mind like a fresh breeze. Midday approaches slowly, with a brightening sky and lengthening warmth on your shoulders. The temple fills with more movement now. Light footsteps, soft conversations, the clink of pottery being arranged. When lunch finally arrives, it is simple. A bowl of lentils, gently seasoned with herbs, a piece of soft bread still warm from baking, a cup of diluted wine that tastes faintly of berries and sun. You sit in a shaded corner of the dining room. The walls glow with reflected light, soft and creamy. Other Vestals eat nearby, speaking lightly of small matters. Someone mentions seeing a stray cat near the outer wall. Another complains that the humidity has made her veil misbehave. You listen with amusement. These small concerns feel like anchors in a life full of ritual. The food is warm and comforting. The lentils are earthy and thick, carrying the taste of slow cooking and careful seasoning. The bread is soft at the center, crusty at the edge. The wine goes down smoothly. When you finish, you lean back slightly, only slightly, as the elder Vestal dislikes slouching, and savor a rare pause. The afternoon will bring new tasks. You know this. You feel it in your bones the way sailors feel weather in theirs. But for now, just for these breaths, the world rests on warm stone and full bellies, and you rest with it. The afternoon begins its slow descent, the kind that settles over the temple like a long, warm exhale. You rise from your shaded seat in the dining room, feeling the comfortable weight of the meal settle into your stomach, and step once more into the courtyard. The light has changed again. It falls in gentler sheets now, softer around the edges, as though the sun has smoothed its own brightness for the sake of your tired eyes. The marble columns glow faintly, their surfaces warm under your fingertips when you brush them in passing. The scent of sun-baked stone, herbs, and the faint whisper of cooling dust envelopes the air. Some Vestals are already returning to their tasks. Their sandals patter softly against the floor, trailing shadows behind them. You adjust your veil and fall into the rhythm of the temple once more. Slow and steady, like a tide with nowhere to hurry. Your first task after the midday break brings you back toward the archives. The air there is cooler, sheltered from the blazing heat outside. Shelves rise in peaceful rows, holding scrolls and tablets with the patience of objects that know they will outlive everyone who handles them. A scribe sits on a low stool, hunched over a parchment, his stylus tapping lightly as he tries to rephrase something in neater letters. He looks up when you enter. "Forgive me," he murmurs, "but I must ask about one detail in the records again. The festival date, was it 5 days before the calends or 4? Both are marked. Always the calendars. Rome loves clarity in theory and ambiguity in practice." You take the tablets he gestures toward. Their surfaces are cool against your palms, smelling faintly of baked clay, dry dust, and old ink. You trace the inscriptions with your fingertip, letting your memory walk backward through time, through ceremonies, processions, garlands, chants. It is surprising how clearly your mind can call up past events. It is as though your senses archive them better than any scribe could. "It was 5, you say softly. The offerings of grain arrived early because of the storm. The procession began at the 2nd hour. His relief is visible, almost comical. He bows slightly and starts inscribing again with careful strokes. You place the tablets back on the shelf, adjusting their alignment by instinct. A tidy shelf is a tidy mind, or so one of the elder Vestals once told you. You are not sure she was right, but the sensation is comforting. When you step into the corridor again, the heat outside has softened. Shadows lengthen like ink flowing across parchment. The air carries a slight breeze, lifting the edges of your veil. You head toward the inner courtyard, where several Vestals are sorting through offerings brought earlier in the day. The table there is covered with small bowls, grain, dried fruits, twisted threads of dyed wool, olive leaves, and small figs still holding the scent of morning sun. You help sort through them, separating what will be used soon from what will be dried for later. Your fingers move slowly through the items. A bowl of figs feels warm to the touch, their skins soft and fragrant. You place them aside, catching the sweetness that lingers on your fingertips. A few bees wander lazily around the table, drawn by the fruit, and you gently wave them away. One of the younger Vestals hums quietly as she works. A soft tune, nothing recognizable, just a sound to fill the quiet. It mixes with the rustle of leaves and the distant chatter from the forum below. After helping for a while, you rise and stretch your arms subtly. The sun dips lower, casting long stripes of gold across the courtyard floor. And now comes one of the quieter but more demanding afternoon duties, polishing the ceremonial objects. You make your way to a room set aside for storage and maintenance. Inside are shelves lined with bronze bowls, ladles, small sacrificial knives whose edges have been carefully dulled, and incense burners etched with old patterns. They catch the afternoon light in tired glimmers, as though waiting for a second sunrise. You take a soft cloth and begin polishing a small bronze bowl. It is cool at first, then warms beneath your hands. The motion is meditative, rhythmic. The cloth moves in circles. The bowl grows brighter, catching the light like a small captive sun. You hear your own breathing, slow, steady, part of the temple's rhythm. Dust rises in tiny motes as you work, shimmering in shafts of sunlight that slice into the room at an angle. The smell of metal, oil, and old incense clings to the air. It is a scent you associate with purpose. Soon another Vestal joins you. She picks up a ladle and begins to polish it with practiced movements. For a time, the two of you work in silence. Then she speaks softly, her tone thoughtful. "Do you ever wonder," she says, "how many hands polished these before us?" You smile faintly. "All of them," you answer. "Every hand since the temple was built." She returns the smile, satisfied with the answer. You both continue working, the room filled with quiet industry. When the bronze catches the light just right, you feel a small sense of accomplishment. Not pride exactly, but something gentler, like restoring a familiar face to its brightness. The next task calls you toward the outer corridor, where a group of Vestals gather to prepare the small, evening-bound garlands. These garlands are not for grand ceremonies but for daily devotion. Simple strands of laurel, olive leaves, and occasionally a sprig of rosemary or myrtle. You sit among them, inhaling the fresh green scents. The leaves are cool and firm under your fingers as you weave them one by one into neat circles. The repetitive motion settles your mind, like tracing the edge of a smooth stone. The Vestal beside you, a girl barely in her teens, glances up shyly. "Is mine too loose?" she asks, holding up her half-finished garland. You inspect it. The leaves are spaced unevenly, leaning toward one side, as if they are trying to escape the formation. "Not too loose," you say gently. "Just hopeful. Here, watch." You demonstrate the technique, guiding her fingers through the motion. She nods, brow furrowed in concentration, and tries again. This time, the garland takes shape more gracefully. The moment is simple, quiet, human, and it warms you more than the sun ever could. When the garlands are complete, you help carry them to the storage shelves. The air in that corner of the temple carries the scent of fresh leaves and the faint sweetness of dried flowers from festivals past. A light breeze curls through the doorway, bringing with it the murmur of the forum. Rome is louder now, as afternoon has ripened into the hour when markets bustle and gossip thickens. You catch fragments of conversations, nothing in full sentences, just splashes of sound drifting up the stone steps. You step into the outer portico for a breath of air. The city spreads below, warmed by sunlight and activity. Vendors call out their last offers of the day. Children weave between adults. A dog trots purposefully, as though late to some appointment. The smell of baking bread, roasting nuts, and sun-warmed dust drifts upward. You sit on the steps for a moment, allowing yourself the indulgence of watching the ordinary world. It is distant enough not to touch your duties, yet near enough to remind you of the Rome that lives beyond ceremony. The elder Vestal emerges from behind you with her soft, patient steps. She sits beside you, adjusting her veil with a practiced touch. "You look thoughtful," she says gently. "I'm just watching," you reply. She nods knowingly. One learns much by watching, more than by speaking. A comfortable silence settles between you. You feel it stretch like a soft thread, connecting you to her, to the flame, to the city below. After a while, she rises with the inevitability of someone bound to time. There is work yet. You follow her back into the temple, where the evening rituals begin to stir beneath the surface of the day. The sanctuary is cooler now. The flame burns steady, its light deepening to amber. You stand before it with the others, offering the garlands, adjusting the vessels, preparing the space for the early dusk rites. As the afternoon fades fully, the temple seems to inhale the last of the daylight. Shadows settle. Lamps flicker. The flame glows brighter against the darkening marble. Your tasks shift again, becoming slower, more deliberate, like the temple's pulse easing into evening. Soon the elder Vestal signals that preparations for the pre-sunset blessing may begin. You step forward with the others, hands steady, movements precise. The offering is simple: grain, a drip of oil, a small garland, a whispered invocation. The flame receives everything gently, and the temple exhales. The world grows dim. Your body hums with the residue of the day. The evening's quiet weight drapes itself across your shoulders. Rome outside softens into warm twilight, and you remain within these walls, steady, grounded, watchful. The day is not yet finished, but it is leaning gracefully toward night, and you are ready for whatever comes after. Evening deepens with a kind of deliberate slowness, as though Rome herself is reluctant to close her eyes. The sky beyond the temple arches shifts from gold to amber to the bruised blue of approaching night. The last warmth of the day lingers on the stones, rising in soft waves that brush your ankles as you walk. You remain in the sanctuary after the pre-sunset rites, adjusting a garland whose leaves have tilted slightly out of place, smoothing the cloth near the offering bowls, straightening a bronze ladle so its shadow falls more neatly. These are small things, little gestures that no visitor would notice, but the temple notices. Order here is a quiet kind of devotion. The flame glows more vividly now, the dimming world giving its shape greater definition. It sways with calm confidence, reflecting on the polished bronze like a second, gentler sun. You feel its warmth brush your cheek as you lean closer to check the wood reserves at its side. The faint scent of resin, warm ash, and evening herbs clings to the air like a memory you aren't finished with. It is oddly comforting. Beyond the sanctuary, you hear the shifting rhythm of footsteps, Vestals moving with unhurried purpose, attendants preparing lamps, a distant broom sweeping stone. Nothing abrupt, everything softened by the hour. You step into the corridor, where the lamps have been newly lit. Their flames tremble slightly, shadows dancing along the plaster walls. The air feels cooler here, carrying the faint smell of evening breeze, olive oil, and settling dust. Your sandals whisper against the stone floor. A young Vestal intercepts you. Her hair is neatly braided, though one strand has escaped and curls in defiance near her cheek. "Would you help me with the lampstands?" she asks, holding a small oil jug in both hands. You nod and follow her to one of the long hallways leading toward the temple's outer courtyards. Rows of small bronze lamps rest on narrow shelves along the walls, each flickering faintly, some guttering from lack of oil. You take a lamp between your fingers. It's warm, almost hot, the bronze radiating heat gathered throughout the day. You tilt it gently, pour a careful stream of oil, and adjust the wick with a thin metal pick. The tiny flame lifts and steadies itself. The younger girl watches you closely, mirroring your movements on the next lamp. "These used to make me nervous," she admits quietly. "I was afraid I'd tip them over." "You'd be surprised how much the lamps forgive," you say, a small smile forming. As you work down the line, lamp after lamp, your fingers pick up the scent of olive oil and burnt wick, a smell that has woven itself into the fabric of temple life. The warmth of the flames creates a gentle flickering glow along the walls, scattering shadows that seem to sway like silent dancers. When all the lamps burn evenly, you both step back to admire the soft corridor light. "It looks peaceful," she breathes. "It usually does," you answer. "That's one of the temple's quiet secrets." You part ways and you make your way back toward the inner atrium. Night is settling now, the sky outside deepening to a soft violet. Rome hums lower, quieter, still alive but readying itself for rest. Voices drift upward from the forum, muted and warm, softened by distance and the settling dusk. You step out to the steps for a moment, drawn by the changing light. The city unfolds beneath you like a living tapestry. Rooftops glowing with the last amber glint of day, narrow streets filling with torchlight, the white columns of nearby buildings turning blue with shadow. A vendor below packs away his goods. He stacks clay pots with careful hands, his movements slow and methodical. Children chase each other around a fountain, their laughter sharp but fleeting. A dog shakes dust from its coat before curling up beside its owner. Every sound is smaller, more contained. You breathe in deeply. The air carries the sense of cooling stone, distant cooking fires, and the first night blossoms opening in small gardens across the city. A softness curls around your shoulders, the particular softness of Rome at dusk. The elder Vestal finds you there again, as she often does in these hours. She approaches quietly, her sandals barely whispering. You don't need to turn to know it's her. The air adjusts itself around her with practiced respect. "Come," she murmurs. "There is still work." You follow her back inside where the fading light hangs in narrow strips along the temple's floors. This part of the evening belongs to maintaining the small altars scattered throughout the complex. Niches holding modest lamps, clay figurines, vessels of dried flowers, bits of carved wood polished by centuries of hopeful hands. You begin in a side chamber few visitors ever see. Its walls hold slight coolness, carrying the scent of old plaster and gentle dampness, where the night air slips through hairline cracks. A small shrine sits in one corner, its lamp nearly extinguished. You kneel to relight it, shielding the newborn flame with your hand until it steadies. The wick flares, then calms. The light reveals dust along the shelf, and you wipe it away with a linen cloth. The figurines here, a handful of small shapes carved from olive wood, seem to glow warmly in the lamplight. Their surfaces are smooth from handling. You touch one gently, careful not to disturb its placement. As you stand, you feel the shift of the temple's breath, the way the building itself seems to settle deeper into the night. There is something almost alive in the way the air thickens, the way the stone seems to hum with the remnants of the day. You move through another corridor, tending to more lamps, adjusting garlands, straightening items displaced by the day's quiet bustle. Each small adjustment feels like smoothing a wrinkle from a favorite piece of cloth. In the larger courtyard, night has fully claimed the sky. Stars peek over the temple walls. A faint silvered glow touches the marble edges. Lamps flicker gently along the walkways. A few other Vestals gather there, speaking softly. They greet you with nods, their voices blending with the night air. One of them carries a tray of fresh incense. Another is arranging the evening's coals in preparation for the deeper night rites. You join them. The incense smells of myrrh, honeyed resin, and a sweetness you can never quite name. When you touch it, the grains stick slightly to your fingertips. You portion them carefully into small bowls, each to be used at different hours of the night. As you work, the youngest Vestal, barely 12, watches you with the fascination of someone still growing into her place. She asks a quiet question. "Do you ever forget a step?" You shake your head gently. Not anymore. The temple teaches you, even when you're not paying attention. She nods, absorbing this as though it were a profound secret. When the incense is prepared, you step toward the sanctuary again. The flame is stronger now. Dusk always gives it a kind of renewed beauty. It dances with an almost fluid grace, moving slowly as if aware that the night demands softness. The evening rite begins. You stand with the others, hands precise, posture still. The elder Vestal speaks the words. You feel them move through the air like ripples on a quiet pond. You offer the incense. It hisses softly. Smoke rises, pale and fragrant, curling around your fingertips like cool silk. The flame flares, then calms. The temple's heart beats steady. After the rite, the sanctuary stays luminous, the central flame the brightest point in the world. Shadows crowd the corners but do not enter the sacred circle. You breathe in deeply. The scent of incense settles into your hair, into the folds of your veil, into the fragile quiet of your mind. Night has now fully arrived, but your tasks are not yet finished. You move toward the kitchen alcove with two other Vestals. The small space is warm from earlier cooking. Herbs still cling to the air, and a pot of water simmers quietly, steam rising like a gentle ghost. The scent of lentil broth, steeped herbs, and cool clay jars fills the room. Your job is simple. Prepare warm drinks for those who will take the night watch. You pour warm water into shallow cups, adding a pinch of herbs crushed between your fingers. The aroma lifts immediately, chamomile, sweet mint, and something faintly floral. The steam curls upward, brushing your cheeks. The cups warm your hands. You carry them carefully to the sanctuary. One Vestal sits already in place, ready for her shift. She accepts the drink with a grateful nod. Her eyes are tired but steady. The flame paints soft gold across her face. You sit for a moment beside her, holding your own cup. The drink is warm on your tongue, soothing your throat. You breathe in its scent and feel your entire body soften into the rhythm of the night. There is something magical about this hour. Quiet but not empty, dark but never threatening. A kind of peace that cannot be found elsewhere in Rome. After the drink, you rise and walk to the portico once more. The night air envelopes you, cool and gentle. A few torches burn in the forum below, their flames tiny and distant. Rome hums still, but softly now, like someone speaking in their sleep. You stand there, letting the breeze play with the edge of your veil, and you think, quietly, deeply, about how strange and comforting your days have become, how full and empty at once, how quietly beautiful. You return inside, your footsteps barely a whisper. Your eyes are growing heavy, but there are still small duties, still soft corners of the temple to tend. And the night is long yet, but you're ready. You always are. Night glides deeper into the temple, settling into its cracks and crevices, making itself at home. The heat of the day has fully lifted now. The stones beneath your feet have cooled to a gentle firmness, no longer warm, but holding a quiet memory of warmth in their core. The air feels cleaner, easier to breathe, tinged with the faint sweetness of incense that still lingers from earlier rites. You walk through the corridor that leads from the sanctuary to the outer courtyard. Lamps flicker along the walls, their flames surprisingly steady for this hour. Long shadows ripple across the floor in tall, graceful shapes, making the temple feel larger, deeper, older. As you pass them, the air shifts slightly, carrying the sense of night herbs, cool oil, and the faint metallic tang of bronze freshly polished. Your next duty is not particularly demanding, at least not in action. It is the hour of listening. Listening to what? To everything and nothing. You make your way to the small stone bench near one of the open archways. Beyond it lies the garden, dark, quiet, fragrant. You sit, drawing your veil closer around your shoulders. The night's coolness brushes your skin with the gentlest of touches. The garden hums with soft life. Crickets, a rustle of leaves, the faint puff of a night breeze weaving its way through rosemary and mint. A single drip of leftover moisture falling from a leaf into the soil. You close your eyes for a moment and let these sounds wrap around you. The Vestals perform many rituals with their hands, but this is one performed with the body, listening, absorbing, attuning yourself to the rhythms of the night, to the quiet harmony that keeps the temple's heart steady. Some hours are measured not in actions but in presence. When you open your eyes, the garden has shifted subtly. The moon, low but bright, slips between the columns, casting silver stripes on the stone path. The herbs gleam faintly, each leaf rimmed with pale luminescence. You rise from the bench and descend into the garden itself. The ground is soft under your sandals, a mixture of earth and crushed leaves. You trail your fingers along the tops of the herb beds, brushing rosemary, mint, laurel. The scents rise in little waves, sharper in the cool air. The laurel leaves feel smooth and cool. The rosemary prickles slightly against your fingertips. The mint leaves carry tiny beads of dew that wet your skin. The sensations are grounding, almost intimate. You walk slowly, letting the night hold you gently. Near the center of the garden is a small fountain, a simple stone basin carved square, dripping with steady patience. Its water is dark, reflecting the moon like a single silver coin floating on black silk. You kneel beside it, cup your hand, and dip your fingers into the surface. Cool, still, calming. You touch the water to your temples. The night air dries the droplets quickly, leaving a faint tingling behind. This moment always reminds you of how the world continues to exist outside the duties of the temple. Water still flows, leaves still breathe, night still wraps itself around the earth like a shawl. You are part of this rhythm even in your role. A soft footstep behind you. You turn to see one of the older Vestals, a woman with a wise face and patient eyes. She stands with her hands clasped, her posture straight but softened by age. "It's a peaceful night," she says quietly. "It is," you reply. She watches the fountain for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "When I was your age," she says, "I used to imagine that the flame could hear my thoughts, that it would answer me if I listened long enough." You smile faintly. "Did it?" "Not in words, but sometimes." She lifts her eyes toward the sanctuary. Sometimes its movement felt like a reply. You consider this. In a way, you understand. The flame never speaks, but it has moods. Calm, restless, tall, whispering. Perhaps that is its language. The older Vestal places a warm hand briefly on your arm. An affectionate gesture, rare and precious in the temple. Then she moves on, disappearing back into the shadowed walkway. You rise and follow the path back toward the sanctuary. The lamps flicker as you enter, their golden glow warming the space. The flame burns steady, as if acknowledging your return. Inside, two Vestals sit in quiet companionship. One is reading a tablet, her face lit by its pale wax surface. The other is embroidering a simple border on a piece of linen. Though the stitches are slow, sleep weighs gently on her eyelids. You join them, sitting a little closer to the flame. The warmth loosens your shoulders, softens your breath. The flame's glow paints the world in amber. Shadows sway with each small shift of air, making the sanctuary feel alive in a gentle, breathing way. The tablet reader clears her throat softly. "There was a story I heard once," she murmurs, not looking up, "about a Vestal who could predict the weather just by watching the flame." The embroiderer raises her eyebrows. "Predict the weather?" "Yes. The story said that if the flame leaned sharply, wind was coming. If it circled, rain. If it flickered quickly, a storm." "Superstitions," the elder of the two says with a soft laugh. "The flame only tells what the wood tells it." But you catch yourself glancing at the flame anyway, as if wondering what it is saying right now. It leans slightly east. Perhaps it is merely stretching. Eventually, the two Vestals stand, offering polite nods before departing for their own duties or much-needed rest. Their footsteps fade, leaving you in a deeper stillness. Only the flame remains with you. You sit for a long time, breathing, watching, being. The night reaches its quietest moment, the point where even distant Rome falls into a murmur so faint it feels like memory. The moon shifts position. A breeze slips through the ventilation slits above, carrying a whisper of cool night air, dust, and the faint metallic scent of torch smoke from far across the city. Your eyelids grow heavy, your limbs soften, but you do not sleep, you simply drift. A soft sound brings you back. Footsteps, slow, steady. Another Vestal arrives to relieve you for a short break. She gives you a tired but grateful smile. Go, she whispers. I'll watch for a while. You rise slowly, your bones humming with quiet fatigue. You stretch your neck gently and step into the corridor. The temple is nearly asleep. You move through its passageways like a shadow. In your chamber, the air is cool and still. The lamp burns low, as if it too is on the verge of resting. You lie down on your narrow bed, pulling the blanket up around your shoulders. The wool scratches faintly against your cheek, familiar and reassuring. You close your eyes. The sounds around you fade into a soft, blended hum, the distant flicker of a lamp, a footstep somewhere far in the hall, the breath of the night breeze against the window slit, and beneath it all, the faint, steady crackle of the sacred flame. It is enough. It is more than enough. You drift into a light, floating rest, not deep sleep, but the kind of half-dream that cradles the body and leaves the mind gently awake. And somewhere beyond that drowsy boundary, Rome breathes with you. You wake not to sound, but to a shift in the air, a quiet stirring, a change in the temperature, a subtle thickening of night. Your eyes open slowly. The chamber around you is dim, lit only by the faintest flicker of your dying oil lamp. The flame has curled itself small, a tight golden bead trembling at the tip of the wick. It casts enough light to draw warm lines across the wall, tracing the uneven texture of ancient plaster. You lie there for a moment, letting the softness of half-rest cling to your mind. The wool blanket is gathered around your arms, warm from your body heat, and it smells faintly of linen, smoke, and the simple purity of clean fabric aired in the sun. Somewhere in the temple a door shifts. Somewhere farther off, someone clears their throat. A single sandal brushes stone. The night isn't silent. It's just discreet. You sit up and let your feet touch the floor. The coolness blooms along your skin in a gentle wave. The air feels slightly heavier now, as if hours have passed since you last stepped away from the sanctuary. You adjust your veil. Even in rest, it obeys its own laws, and step into the corridor. The hallway is a corridor of dusk trapped indoors. Long shadows, soft lamplight, stone that remembers the day's warmth. The lamps in their niches burn lower now, steady but quiet, their flames tall and thin. The scent of olive oil, fading incense, and the hush of late night fills the air like a calming potion. Your steps are barely audible. The temple embraces quiet souls. You make your way back toward the sanctuary, feeling the familiar hum in the stone beneath your feet. The flame has a way of calling you, though it doesn't speak. Its presence draws your body like a tide tugged by the moon. Inside, the sacred hearth burns strong and calm. A Vestal sits close by, leaning slightly forward, chin resting in her hand. She looks up as you enter and gives a soft, understanding smile. The kind that says, "Yes, I know this hour. Yes, I know its softness and its weight." She rises quietly to give you room. "Your turn again," she murmurs. And then she is gone, footsteps dissolving into the temple's vastness. You settle onto the low wooden stool beside the flame. Its warmth greets you instantly, brushing your knees, touching your hands, but never overwhelming. The logs give the occasional small pop. A thin curl of smoke rises straight upward, as if reluctant to stir the air. You sit with your spine relaxed, hands folded gently in your lap. Your breathing slows until it matches the rhythm of the flame's glow. This hour, this deep, nocturnal hour, belongs to reflection. There is little else assigned here. Just presence. Just steadiness. You look into the flame. Stretches, flickers, bows, straightens. And the longer you watch, the more you feel the world narrowing to its heat and light. Your thoughts drift like soft dust swirling in lamplight. You think of your first night watch years ago, how your heart raced with the quiet, how the shadows felt larger than reality, how you worried the flame might judge you if you blinked too long. You think of how your hands trembled the first time you adjusted the wood. How the older Vestal rested a reassuring hand on your shoulder and whispered, "It breathes with you. Don't fight it." Tonight, the flame feels like an old companion. You lean slightly forward, elbows resting loosely on your knees. The scent of warm resin and smooth ash curls around you. It clings to the fabric of your veil, settling into the threads. Your half-rested mind drifts again, not toward dreams but toward small memories. The way sunlight felt on your skin earlier in the courtyard. The sound of girls laughing over a crooked garland. The crisp, clean scent of morning mint. The heavy calm of the temple during dusk. The child who waved shyly after the blessing. These little echoes move gently through your thoughts, settling like feathers. Time passes quietly. Minutes stretch into something softer, blurred by the flicker of the flame. A sound draws your attention, a faint shift of fabric. The youngest Vestal in the house appears at the edge of the sanctuary, blinking sleep from her eyes. She approaches timidly, carrying a small cushion. "The elder said I should sit with you," she whispers. You nod, patting the stool beside you. Her feet barely reach the floor when she sits. She watches the flame with round, solemn eyes. "Do you ever get afraid of the dark?" she asks after a long moment. You consider your answer carefully. "Sometimes," you admit. "Everyone does. But the dark here," you gesture to the temple. "It isn't empty. It's full of quiet things." She tilts her head. "Like what?" "Like breathing stone," you say. "Like sleeping herbs. Like old prayers settled into the walls." She smiles at that, a small, sleepy smile, and leans gently against your arm. You don't move away. The temple can be strict in many ways, but it understands the language of comfort. You sit together, sharing the warmth of the flame and the quiet of the hour. The child's breathing deepens, though she doesn't quite fall asleep. She folds her hands neatly, like she's practicing being calm. After a while, she asks, "Do you think the flame knows us?" You answer softly, "I think it knows we're here, and that is enough." She seems satisfied with that answer. Eventually, another Vestal comes to retrieve her gently. The child slips away with a whispered goodnight. Her small footsteps fade down the corridor, leaving you alone again with the flame. The sanctuary grows still. Your eyelids lower halfway. The heat of the fire creates a cocoon of warmth around your body. Time thins. A distant noise, a cartwheel outside, perhaps, echoes faintly and disappears. Somewhere in the city, a dog barks once, then twice, then gives up for the night. The gentle hum of Rome fades into the distance, softened by stone and sleep. You shift your posture slightly, feeling the stiffness in your legs begin to loosen. The stool creaks. The flame lifts a little at the disturbance. You add a small piece of wood to the fire. The logs shift. A wave of fresh heat rolls out. Smoke spirals upward, tasting faintly of pine and myrrh. Your thoughts drift again, this time towards something quieter, deeper. You think about the life you've built within these walls, the rituals that shape your days, the steadiness that steadies you in return, the countless moments of silence you have learned to understand like a language. It's not a life of noise or drama. It's a life of slow layers, of attention, of patience, of breath, and beneath all of it, a strange, subtle beauty. Eventually, your shift ends. A Vestal comes to relieve you. You stand slowly, feeling your joints sigh in the cool air. You bow your head to the flame. Habit, devotion, familiarity, and step away. The corridor is darker now, most lamps guttering low. The air feels cool against your warm skin. You walk quietly. Your chamber greets you with stillness. You slip inside, close the door gently, and set your veil aside. The blanket smells of the hours you've already slept. You lie down again, letting your body sink into the narrow bed. The wool scratches your cheek. Your breath slows, your eyes close. Outside, Rome sleeps. Inside, the flame breathes, and you drift, not fully awake, not fully dreaming, into the soft, suspended world between. Your story continues in this quiet place, held gently by darkness, and warmed by the memory of fire. You wake again to the faintest shift in the quiet. Not sound, not movement, but a subtle notice from your senses that the night has changed shape. You open your eyes slowly. The chamber is darker now. Your lamp has burned out entirely, leaving only a faint gray suggestion of walls and ceiling. The air is cooler than before, and you pull the wool blanket closer around your shoulders. A breath, a stretch, a moment for your mind to remember where you are. The temple sleeps in layers. You are somewhere between them. You rise carefully, feeling the wooden frame of your bed creak softly beneath you. Your feet meet the cold stone with a small hush of warmth leaving your skin. You gather your veil over your shoulders, its folds smelling faintly of warm resin, linen, and night air drawn in from your earlier walk through the garden. Outside your chamber, the corridor is dim, lit only by the occasional small lamp still bravely burning. The light reaches only a few feet in any direction, leaving the air soft and velvety beyond. The smell of olive oil, softened by long hours of burning, clings to the air like a sigh. Rome, in the quietest part of its night, does not disappear. It simply folds inward. You walk the corridor slowly, as though your steps themselves would disturb the stillness if they hurried. Each sandal strike on stone is a small, whispered note. You are due back at the sanctuary for your final night cycle. This is the hour when the flame burns low but steady, when the temple feels most like a creature dreaming. As you approach, you hear the faint murmur of the logs shifting. A soft crackle, subtle like a small thought escaping. The sanctuary opens before you, its shape familiar even in dim light. The flame glows deep orange, heavy and warm. The shadows it casts ripple slowly across the marble walls like soft moving water. The Vestal on duty nods to you through quiet, tired eyes. She stands with care, as though the hour has made her bones gentle and her thoughts half-liquid. "It's calm," she whispers, as if the fire is dreaming too. You thank her with a small gesture. She slips past you, vanishing into the corridor like a candle flame sheltered by cupped hands. You take your place on the wooden stool that has shaped itself to your posture over countless nights. The flame's warmth greets your knees and palms almost immediately, curling around you like a familiar embrace. There are many kinds of quiet. This hour has the deepest one. You sit without thinking, simply existing. The flame moves in slow breathing arcs. Up, down, sideways, a gentle pulse. The wood smells richer now, aged by hours of heat. There's a faint trace of warm soot, soft ash, and the last embers of incense lingering like a fading whisper in the air. Your eyelids feel heavy, not from sleep exactly, but from the softness of the hour. Your thoughts begin to untangle. Each moment stretches longer than the last, like taffy pulled by gentle hands. You fold your hands in your lap. Nothing is required of you but attention. This is the simplest and hardest task of all. Time drifts sideways. Sometimes you can feel the entire temple breathing beneath you. Sometimes you feel your heartbeat sinking to the rhythm of the flame. Sometimes the silence feels full, like a cup filled to its brim. After a long stretch, you rise slowly to check the wood supply. The logs are lined neatly beside the hearth, dry and warm to the touch. You add one to the fire, placing it at the perfect angle, a motion practiced so many times it lives in your bones. The fire accepts it with a soft hiss, a faint lift of brightness, a glow that warms the edges of your veil. The shadows shift slightly in response. You sit again, this time leaning back the slightest bit, just enough to ease the stiffness in your spine but not enough to tempt the elder Vestal's disapproval. Even in sleep, you imagine she would somehow sense it. Minutes pass like gentle breaths. A distant sound reaches you, the faint call of a night bird perched somewhere in the city, a note rising and fading. Then footsteps, soft, slow, uncertain. A young acolyte appears at the edge of the sanctuary. Barely more than a boy, really. He rubs one eye with the back of his hand, his tunic slightly uneven from sleep. "I was told to shadow the night watch," he whispers, embarrassed by the volume of his own voice. You nod. He sits a little ways off, close enough to observe, far enough to avoid crowding. He folds his hands neatly, sitting with the stiff posture of someone trying very hard to impress unseen eyes. After a few minutes, your presence and the flame's warmth seem to soften him. His shoulders drop. His breathing steadies. His eyes grow less wide. "What do you think about when you watch the fire?" he asks softly, as though afraid the flame might overhear. You take a moment before answering. "Nothing, and everything. But mostly, I listen." "Listen." He tilts his head. You gesture gently toward the flame. It speaks without words. He watches for a long moment, brow furrowed. Then his expression softens. "I think I hear it." You don't correct him. The temple teaches everyone differently. As the hour deepens, he grows quiet, perhaps lulled by the warmth. His eyes droop occasionally, but he stays awake, determined. You admire his effort. Eventually he stands, bows slightly, and retreats to another duty, or perhaps back to his bedding. His soft steps fade into the dark. You remain, alone again with the flame, with the quiet, with the hour that feels like the very center of night. The sanctuary air feels thicker now, scented with the deep richness of slow-burning wood. You breathe it in, letting it ground you. Your thoughts drift not toward the past or future, but simply toward feeling. You imagine Rome outside, silent streets, sleeping markets, shuttered windows, roofs cooling under the quiet touch of the moon. You picture the Tiber flowing slowly, dark water carrying secrets beneath its surface. You picture the Forum empty, marble statues watching over nothing but silence. You picture the city resting, like a giant creature curled in its den. Hours pass gently, softly, without hurry. Eventually your final watch ends. Another Vestal arrives. One of the older ones, her face serene, her posture steady. She greets you with a nod and sits on the stool you vacate. "Sleep if you can," she murmurs. "Your morning will come quickly." You bow your head to the flame, your body warm and your mind softened by the hour's tranquility. The corridor is almost entirely dark now. Your steps echo softly. Your breath creates a small puff of warmth in the cool air. Your chamber welcomes you with its quiet. You lie down once more, folding the blanket around yourself. Your eyes close easily, and for the first time in hours, your body drops, not into half-rest, not into drifting consciousness, but into the beginning of true sleep. Your last awareness is the faint, comforting heat still lingering on your skin from the sacred flame. And Rome rests with you. Morning does not arrive all at once. It leaks into the temple softly, like pale water finding its way through the cracks of night. Before you open your eyes, you feel it. The gentle thinning of darkness behind your eyelids. The way the air shifts from cool night stillness to something faintly awake. The wool blanket rests over your body, warm where you are, cool where you are not. Your breath hangs lightly in the chamber, neither warm nor cold enough to cloud. You stretch slowly. The stone beneath your feet when you rise is warm in places and cold in others, as though it, too, is deciding whether the day is worth waking for. Your veil lies folded neatly where you left it. You place it over your shoulders, letting the linen cool your neck. It smells faintly of smoke and herbs from yesterday, scents that cling no matter how many washings the temple laundresses give it. Outside your door, the corridor holds the earliest shades of dawn. The lamps are dim now, their flames thin and hesitant, ready to be extinguished. You pass them quietly, adjusting one wick out of habit, though it no longer needs tending. When you reach the sanctuary, the flame greets you like an old friend who has been waiting with patient warmth. Its orange glow reflects in the bronze basin, throwing soft, trembling light across the floor. A Vestal who kept the last watch stands as you enter. Her shoulders droop slightly, but her eyes are clear. "The flame was calm," she murmurs. "Good," you answer, and she leaves you to the hush of early morning. You kneel beside the hearth. The heat touches your face, comforting and familiar. The scent of cool ash, soft smoke, and half-burnt wood clings to the air. This moment, this quiet transaction between night and day, is always yours. You brush away the thin gray layer of ash that gathered overnight, each movement slow, deliberate. Beneath the ash the coals still glow, a heartbeat under the embers. You add a small bundle of kindling. The flame accepts it with gratitude. A quiet crackle, a small lift of light, a soft stirring of warmth. The sanctuary brightens by the smallest degree. You move next to the purification basin. Its water is cool enough to sting the tips of your fingers. When you dip your hand in, the chill travels up your arm and wakes your mind fully. You touch the droplets to your forehead and breathe in the faint mineral scent of fresh water drawn before dawn. The temple wakes in pieces. Soft footsteps, a door sliding open, a broom brushing stone, a whisper of cloth. You step into the courtyard. The early light pours in weakly, painting the columns in pale gold. The herbs smell lively even before they are touched. Mint bright and sharp, rosemary heavy and green, fresh basil releasing a sweet trace into the air. You reach down and brush a leaf. Dew collects on your skin, cool, soft, dissolving. The earth beneath smells damp and quiet. As the sun climbs, the temple begins its slow unfurling. A young Vestal hurries past with a scroll pressed protectively to her chest. Two acolytes set down a jug of water near the basin, the clay sweating faintly in the warming air. An attendant lights the first daytime lamp in a corner alcove. All of it feels like pieces falling gently into place. You are summoned by the elder Vestal to assist with morning preparations. Her chambers always smell of olive wood, dried herbs, and the faint sweetness of incense woven so deeply into the plaster you suspect it will remain long after you are gone. "We have a small rite at sunrise," she says. Her voice is low but decisive. "The offering must be simple and clean." You bow your head. This is familiar, like a rhythm your hands know by instinct. The preparations are done in calm quiet. A bowl of barley, pale and soft to the touch. A measure of wine, deep purple with the faint scent of grapes warmed by last year's sun. A garland of fresh laurel, woven earlier and still smelling of green shade. You carry them to the sanctuary. The flame glows brighter now, fed by the morning's breath. It flickers with a confidence it did not possess in the deep night. The rite begins when the sunlight first touches the highest part of the temple roof. You stand with the others, the air cool against your ankles. The elder Vestal intones the words, quiet, steady, clear. The smoke rises in curling spirals. The grain falls with a soft whisper. The wine hisses gently when it meets the heat. The moment feels both new and ancient. When it is done, the flame settles. The temple hums. You leave the sanctuary to help with another preparation, this time for visitors. A family will come seeking a blessing for their eldest daughter, who is soon to be married. Not a grand ritual, only a quiet exchange of hopes. In the side courtyard, you arrange the offering table, simple cloth, a small vase of fresh leaves, a clean clay bowl. The table smells of freshly washed linen and morning sunlight warming its wooden surface. The family arrives shortly after. A mother, father, and young woman with hair braided carefully for the occasion. She holds a small offering of honey cakes wrapped in cloth, sweet, warm, fragrant. You greet them softly. The girl's eyes flicker to yours. There is nervousness there, but also trust. The offering is small, but full of meaning. You place the honey cakes on the table. The scent rises, sweet, warm, with a hint of roasted grain. You speak the blessing quietly, your voice gentle, each word falling like a smooth stone into calm water. The girl exhales a tremble of relief. Her mother squeezes her hand. You smile not broadly but warmly enough. When the family leaves, the courtyard feels lighter. You return to the inner halls, which are now bustling with the ordinary rhythms of temple life. The scent of fresh bread drifts through the corridors, carried from the kitchen. Somewhere, a junior priest debates with a scribe over which version of a festival date is more correct. A group of Vestals gather near the garden, discussing the upcoming maintenance of the herb beds. You help carry a basket of linens to the laundry area. The fresh cloth smells of sun, river water, and crushed lavender used during washing. As you place them in order, your fingers fall into the pattern of folding, smooth, straight, precise. When it is time for the simple meal, you sit with the others in the shaded dining room. Bread still warm, a handful of herbs, a small bowl of olives, and a cup of cool water. The meal is quiet but companionable. The younger Vestals whisper about a dream one of them had. An older one remarks on the weather. Someone laughs softly, tiny sound but bright. After the meal, the temple settles into its slow midday preparations. You walk the outer corridor again, your sandals brushing gently along the stone. The air smells of freshly polished bronze, damp stone losing its cool, and bread that has just been put away. Nothing extraordinary happens, but this is the beauty of temple life. It is woven from quiet threads. A breeze enters through the archway, brushing your face, lifting your veil slightly. You pause. Somewhere deep inside you, the rhythm of the temple matches the rhythm of your breath. You step back toward the sanctuary. The flame is steady, unbothered, bright, and you know, calmly, quietly, that the rest of the day awaits you with its own gentle demands. But for this moment, this breath, this soft turning of morning into day, you simply exist, held, balanced, and warmed by the fire that never sleeps. The day stretches its limbs slowly, almost luxuriously, as the morning grows brighter and fuller. The temple contains the light in gentle layers, first pale gold, then warmer honey, then the soft white glow that settles on marble and linen like a calm hand smoothing wrinkles. You walk along the colonnade, tracing a finger lightly along the cool stone. The sunlight slants through the columns, painting long, slim shadows that sway gently with the morning breeze. Each breath feels easier than the last, as though the temple itself exhales with you. Your first duty after the morning meal is to accompany one of the elder Vestals to the archives. The high priest's assistant has sent a request for clarification on a series of offerings made 3 years ago. A trivial matter for some, but not for Rome. Rome loves clarity almost as much as it loves ritual. The archives are cool and dim, a kindly refuge from the warming courtyard. Wooden shelves reach up into shadow, packed with scrolls tied with fading ribbons, clay tablets stacked in patient rows, wax tablets laid neatly like sleeping thoughts. The air here smells of dust warmed by memory, dried ink, aged wood, and the earthy sweetness of wax. You feel your mind fall naturally into a quieter rhythm the moment you step inside. The elder Vestal inspects a tablet, frowning slightly at the handwriting. You hold another tablet up, angling it toward a beam of light that has cracked the dimness like a single golden knife. The inscriptions are faint. Time has worn them gently, but still legible. You run your fingertip along the carved numerals, feeling the subtle grooves. The clay is cool and slightly rough. "It was 3 measures, not 2, you say quietly. She nods without looking up. "I thought so." A scribe hurries in with a stylus, eager to record the corrected information. His sandals squeak faintly on the stone, a tiny comical noise swallowed quickly by the hush of the room. You offer him the tablet, and he bows his head deeply, as if you've just handed him a treasure rather than mundane facts about offerings. When the work is done, you and the elder Vestal walk back through the corridor. She moves slower than she once did, her movements constrained by the quiet pains that come with age, but her presence remains steady, as though she is carved into the architecture. "You have a good memory," she murmurs. You shake your head modestly. "It's only practice. And patience," she adds. "Do not forget patience." You smile because you know that in the temple, patience is both a requirement and a teacher. Outside, the sun has climbed fully now. The courtyard is alive with soft activity. A pair of acolytes sweep the walkways, their brooms whispering against the stone like soft wind. Another carries a stack of folded cloths, the linen crisp and white. A small cart of herbs has been brought in from the garden for sorting, and their fresh scent hangs gently in the air. You join 2 Vestals near the herb table. They are separating freshly cut sprigs, laurel, rosemary, mint, sage, each collected at dawn when the leaves are still cool and fragrant. You sit with them, letting the herbs brush against your fingers. The mint releases sharp green notes. The rosemary carries a forest within it. The laurel feels smooth and faintly sweet. The sage leaves crumble slightly at the tips, leaving a soft powder on your fingertips. The sorting is slow, meditative. You fall into the rhythm instantly. One of the younger Vestals breaks the silence. "I dreamed I was walking through a field of laurel trees," she says. "But the trees kept leaning toward me, whispering something. I couldn't understand them." "That means you were very tired." Another answers gently. You laugh softly under your breath. The temple breeds dreams that linger, their meanings uncertain, their imagery vivid. Everyone here dreams of leaves at some point. When the herbs are sorted, you help carry the baskets to the small storage chamber near the kitchens. The air there is warm and smells faintly of bread dough and stone ovens cooling after the morning's work. You place the baskets on a shelf, step back, and wipe your hands on your linen stola. The next duty falls into place as naturally as breath. A messenger arrives, young, breathless, dusty from the street. He brings a wax tablet stamped with the seal of the pontifex. You escort him to the elder Vestal, who accepts the tablet with careful hands. She reads it quietly, the flame's reflection flickering across her features. "A request for purification rites," she says at last. "A minor official's household has had an unsettling omen. We must prepare." You nod. There are always omens. A bird flying in the wrong direction, a bowl dropped at the wrong moment, a dream whose details feel too sharp. Rome takes them seriously. Your task is to prepare the ingredients. You retrieve a small, shallow clay bowl. Its surface is cool, smooth, and slightly uneven, handmade decades ago. Into it you place a small measure of salt, white and fine, barley grains, pale and soft, a tiny piece of charcoal, dark as midnight, and a sprig of rosemary, fragrant and green. The mixture smells like earth and purity and the faint electricity of ritual. You carry it to the sanctuary. The elder Vestal joins you. Together, you prepare the hearth for the rite, smoothing the ashes, adjusting the wood, preparing the space where the offering will be placed. When the official arrives, a middle-aged man with worry lines around his eyes, he bows deeply. His wife stands behind him, holding a small cloth bundle of additional offerings. The rite is simple. Soft words, slow gestures, the bowl placed at the base of the flame. A faint hiss as a pinch of the mixture touches the hot coals. Smoke rising in a thin, fragrant ribbon. The official's eyes soften as he watches. Relief is its own form of devotion. When they depart, the air feels lighter. The temple shifts again, not in sound, but in mood. The sun has reached its strongest point. The light in the courtyard is bright enough to hurt your eyes if you stare too long. And yet the air still carries cool threads of shadow beneath the colonnade. You retreat into the shade, where you sit for a moment to braid your hair more neatly. Your fingers work automatically, separate twist, tuck, pin, until your braid sits like a quiet crown beneath your veil. A few Vestals gather nearby, preparing their midday tasks. One wipes sweat from her brow with the edge of her sleeve. Another fans herself lightly with a folded tablet. "It will be hot this afternoon," one remarks. "Rome likes to remind us who is in charge," another replies. You smile. It's true. The sun here has authority. Soon, the midday meal is prepared. You follow the others to the dining room, where the air is slightly cooler. The stone walls hold the cold from the night long into the day. You sit in your usual place, hands folded in your lap. The meal is simple as always. Lentils simmered with herbs. Soft bread, still carrying warmth from the oven. A handful of dried figs, sweet and chewy. A cup of cool water, tasting of clay and shadow. You eat slowly, savoring the small pleasures. The chew of the bread, the warmth of the lentils, the burst of sweetness from each figure. The conversation at the table drifts lazily. Someone mentions a stray cat seen near the outer gate. Someone else speaks of a new inscription being carved in the forum. One of the younger Vestals tries to remember a piece of poetry she overheard earlier that morning, but she forgets half the lines and laughs at herself. When the meal ends, you rise with the others. The air in the temple has grown thicker with heat, the midday sun pressing down from above. The sanctuary remains cooler, its high ceiling protecting it from the worst of the warmth. You return there now, drawn by the familiar pull of the flame. It burns steadily, a living center in the calm swirl of the day. You sit close enough to feel its warmth but not its bite. For a moment you simply breathe. The flame dances, the temple hums, your mind settles, and the afternoon begins again. Slow, steady, waiting, full of quiet work, and gentler light. The afternoon gathers itself slowly, like a long sheet being pulled taut across the sky. The sunlight grows heavier, richer, settling in warm layers on the stone floors and the pale marble columns. Even in the sanctuary, where the air usually remains temperate, a soft wave of warmth creeps inward, brushing across your arms and neck. You sit near the flame, feeling its heat blend with the sun's warmth in a quiet, layered harmony. The crackle of the wood has softened to a low murmur, a gentle sound that sits comfortably in the space between silence and presence. You watch the flame tilt slightly in the draft from a high window, its shape drawing a lazy arc of gold. Your next task is one assigned gently with little ceremony, but you have learned that such tasks often carry their own quiet significance. You're asked to help prepare the afternoon offerings for the household shrines within the temple. These are small, personal spaces, niches with modest lamps, small wooden figurines, bowls of dried leaves or flowers left by past Vestals whose names have long faded from memory. You rise and collect a shallow clay tray. Its edges are slightly uneven, handmade long ago. Into it you place a small bowl of freshly ground grain, a pinch of crushed rosemary, a thin thread of saffron, a few droplets of olive oil, glistening like sunlight caught in amber. The mixture has a warm, herb-sweet scent, earthy, grounding, familiar. You carry the tray through one of the side corridors. The floor is cool beneath your sandals, though the air around your shoulders warms with each step. A soft draft whispers across the corridor now and then, lifting the edges of your veil like a curious hand. The first shrine you visit is tucked into a corner where the light falls in a narrow band through an overhead opening. Dust motes drift lazily in the beam of sunshine, turning the air into a slow-moving constellation. The lamp here has nearly burned out. Its flame trembles delicately. You kneel and carefully adjust the wick, adding a touch of oil from the small vessel you carry. The flame strengthens, not fiercely but contentedly. You place a pinch of the offering in the small bowl at the base of the shrine. The crushed rosemary gives a brief burst of scent. As you rise, you touch the edge of the niche, just lightly, the stone warm beneath your fingers. The next shrine lies deeper in the temple's interior, where the light fades earlier and the air turns cooler. You pass Vestals on the way, a pair discussing tomorrow's chores, one carrying a stack of folded cloth, another escorting a scribe who looks faintly overwhelmed by the temple's quiet demands. When you reach the second shrine, the lamp is unlit. A soft drop of oil and a practiced flick of the flint bring a flame to life. The little fire brightens the small wooden figure beside it, a depiction of Vesta carved so smooth it reflects the light. You set the offering before it, feeling the air stir gently as you do. The scent of saffron rises, warm and subtle. You move shrine to shrine. The pattern repeats. Warm stone, soft light, faint scent of herbs, flame lifted gently to life. And with each small act, the temple grows a little brighter, a little more orderly, a little more itself. When you finish, the tray is empty. Your hands smell faintly of rosemary and oil. Your veil has picked up the delicate aroma of herb dust and warm clay. You step into the outer courtyard for a breath of cooler air. The sun hangs high, heavy with heat, casting bright white light across every surface. The shadows beneath the colonnade are a welcome refuge. Long, deep, cool. You walk through them slowly, savoring the contrast of warm air on your face and cool stone under your feet. A group of acolytes sits in the shade, sorting lengths of twine and cord for various tasks. Their chatter is soft, a gentle background hum. One of them waves shyly when they see you, as though offering a quiet salute to your presence. You nod back, amused by their earnestness. Across the courtyard, a Vestal tends the herb beds, adjusting the soil with a wooden trowel. Another carefully trims wilted leaves from a laurel plant. Their movements are slow, deliberate, respectful, each gesture almost a kind of devotion. There is something soothing about watching simple work unfold in warm light. But soon the elder Vestal calls for you again. You follow her into the shade of the inner hall. She holds a scroll in her hands, its ribbon loosely tied. She gestures for you to join her at a small table. "A visitor will arrive soon," she says softly. "An elderly woman with a personal request. She was once a servant in a senator's household. She comes here every few years. Her offerings are always modest, but her devotion is steady." You nod. Steadiness is a quiet form of love. You help prepare a single garland of fresh laurel for the meeting. The leaves feel cool and supple under your fingers. Their scent rises, green and clean, like shaded hillsides far from the city. You weave the garland carefully, making sure each leaf sits gently against the next. When the visitor arrives, she walks slowly, leaning on a carved wooden cane. Her clothing is plain, her hair pulled into a neat gray braid. Her face carries both the softness and sharpness of age. Eyes bright, posture slightly bent but dignified. She bows her head deeply when she sees you and the elder Vestal. "My father brought me here as a little girl," she says. "This place, it kept me safe." You place the garland before her, offering it with both hands. The gesture is simple, but her expression softens deeply. Tears gather at the corners of her eyes, not from sadness but from memory. She speaks a small prayer, not a formal one, just a few quiet words sent upward like a fragile offering. The elder Vestal answers her with gentle blessings. You stand beside her, present but silent. When the woman leaves, you feel a softness in your chest, the kind that comes from witnessing something true and human, something that doesn't need ceremony to have weight. The courtyard feels different afterward, as though touched by her presence, as though carrying her gratitude in its warm air. You return to the sanctuary. The flame burns tall now, its brightness strengthened by new fuel. The heat rolls gently across your face as you kneel. The scent of warm resin lingers, softened by the day's heat. You adjust a piece of wood. The flame curls upward, then leans, then steadies. You sit for a moment, breathing in the familiar warmth. The elder Vestal approaches. "The afternoon rites begin soon," she says. You rise and prepare the small ceremonial items. A bronze bowl cool against your hands. A cloth woven so fine it feels like soft air. A slender ladle carved from smooth olive wood. A pinch of incense dry as dust but fragrant as memory. The rite is simple, a reaffirmation of calm, a gesture of gratitude for the day's safe passing, a promise to carry the flame faithfully into evening. You stand with the others as the incense burns. Smoke rises, pale, thin, curling into shapes that fade too quickly to name. The flame flickers in response. The air warms further. Shadows deepen. The afternoon advances. By now the sun has begun its slow descent. The light softens, thickens, turning honey-colored. The temple's white stone gleams like warm bone. A soft breeze travels through the courtyard, stirring the leaves of the herb beds and brushing against your ankles. The scent of mint rises again, this time deeper, earthier, touched by heat. In the quiet moments between tasks, you sit beneath the portico, feeling the shade cradle you. Chatter from the forum drifts faintly upward. Haggling merchants, distant laughter, the rhythmic thump of baskets being set down. The city pulses, but here, the temple beats at its own slow pace. One of the younger Vestals sits beside you, fanning herself lightly. "Do you ever wonder," she says quietly, "what time feels like outside the temple?" You think about her question for a long moment. "It feels faster," you say. "But I think that's because people chase it." She nods thoughtfully. "We don't chase it here." "No," you say. "We follow it." And the afternoon folds into a quieter stillness. Eventually, the elder Vestal's voice rises, soft, steady. calling everyone to prepare for evening. You feel the shift in the temple, that gentle turning of the day toward dusk. You rise. You gather your tasks. You follow the rhythm that has shaped your life for years. The flame glows brighter as shadows gather. The air cools. Your steps steady. Another evening waits. Another night. Another quiet forever woven into the walls. And you move toward it, unhurried, certain, held by the temple that knows you. Evening leans gently against the temple walls long before the sun disappears. You feel it in the shifting temperature first. The warm layers thinning, the breeze picking up a soft edge, the sunlight turning syrupy and slow. The courtyard glows like burnished bronze, the shadows stretching like long, tired limbs across the stone. You walk with unhurried steps beneath the colonnade. Your sandals whisper. Your veil breathes softly against your shoulders. The air tastes of cooling dust, olive oil, and the faint sweetness of dying sunlight. The elder Vestal waits near the sanctuary entrance, her silhouette framed by the deeper glow of the sacred flame. She gives you a quiet nod, your presence expected, your hands needed. "It is time for the evening cleansing," she murmurs. You bow your head and move toward the small alcove where the cleansing materials are kept. The shelf there holds a set of simple but beautifully crafted items. A bowl of clean water cool as dusk, a pinch of crushed laurel leaves, a small cloth woven so thin it feels like a whisper between your fingers. You dip the cloth into the water, wring it gently, and let it soak up the scent of laurel. The smell rises, green, sharp, almost citrus-like. With slow care, you wipe the rim of the offering bowls, the edges of the bronze ladle, the smooth carved lines of the ceremonial vessels. Each object absorbs your touch quietly, as though grateful for the attention. You move next to the incense stands. The ashes there are faintly warm from earlier offerings. A few crushed petals remain in the grooves of the stone, remnants of yesterday's rites, their color muted by time but still carrying a soft floral note. You clean them gently, careful not to disturb the pattern carved into the stone centuries before you were born. When you finish, the space feels renewed. Not new, never new, but refreshed in a way that only simple, devoted gestures can achieve. The elder Vestal approaches again. Her steps are slow, deliberate, each movement a kind of prayer in itself. "The evening rite will be quiet today," she says. "Only the usual offerings. No visitors." You exhale softly, relieved. Visitors bring unpredictability, even when well-meaning. The quiet rituals are the ones that hum closest to your heart. Together you prepare the items. A handful of barley, pale and nearly weightless. A small measure of wine, glowing like dark garnet. A tiny braid of saffron threads, almost too delicate to touch. Piece of bread, plain and fragrant. When you carry them to the sanctuary, the flame's glow welcomes you, painting your hands gold. The heat brushes your arms gently. The scent of warm ash rises, soft and familiar. The other Vestals gather. Their veils shift like quiet clouds. Their steps are measured. Their breathing is calm. The rite begins with near silence. Only the crackle of the flame punctuating the moment. Only the soft susurration of fabric. Only the faintest exhale of incense rising from an earlier ember. You offer the barley. Pours like sand. Soft, dry, steady. You pour the wine. It steams faintly against the heat. Its scent blooms. Deep, warm, sweet. You place the bread. It rests beside the flame without protest. The saffron threads go last. They curl and darken, releasing a faint floral smoke that twists upward like a golden memory. The elder Vestal speaks a few quiet words. You bow your head. The flame steadies as though listening. When the rite ends, the sanctuary seems to expand. Not literally, but in feeling. The air grows lighter. The shadows settle. The marble holds its breath in a new, gentle way. You step outside, carrying the empty vessel, and place it back on the shelf. The air in the corridor smells of cool stone and warm lamps beginning to glow. You extinguish the lamps in the inner hall, just a few as part of the evening preparation, leaving enough light to guide the temple's watchers through night without disturbing the flame's dominance. The sun is lowering now. A A soft rosy glow spreads across the courtyard. The leaves in the herb beds shimmer faintly in the dying light. You pause there, inhaling the scent of basil, rosemary, and sun-warmed soil. A breeze stirs the fabric of your veil, lifting its edge just enough to cool your cheek. You sit for a brief moment on the low stone bench beneath a column. The stone is warm beneath you, gradually cooling with the fading light. From beyond the temple walls roam murmurs, voices drifting, a distant cart wheel turning, a mother calling for her child, a merchant closing his stall with a thump. Life, far away enough not to intrude, close enough to remind you that the world remains wide outside your quiet walls. You rise when the elder Vestal calls again. Her silhouette is framed by the approaching dusk. "It is time to prepare the lamps," she says. You follow her to the storeroom where dozens of small lamps rest on wooden shelves. They are bronze, clay, or stone, each unique, each worn by years of handling. You run your fingers along their smooth surfaces, picking up the faint smell of old smoke and warm metal. You fill them carefully, a slow pour of olive oil, the gentle adjustment of wicks tightened over time, the removal of cooled wax from their edges. This work is soothing, precise, satisfying in its predictability. When you carry the lamps to the courtyard, the sky has darkened into a soft lavender. One by one, you light them, each flame a small heartbeat, each glow a note in the quiet evening song of the temple. The lamps reflect on the polished stone like stars caught at your feet. Other Vestals join you, placing the lamps in their designated niches along the walkways. You catch their expressions softened by the amber glow, tired perhaps, but peaceful. As the last lamp is lit, you step back and look at the scene. The courtyard is now a quiet constellation, tiny flames flickering gently, shadows swaying like sleepy spirits, the air warm and sweetened by the scent of flickering oil. You hear someone in the distance laugh softly, not loud, just a breath of mirth. It warms the space more than the lamps do. The first cool breath of night brushes your neck. You pull your veil slightly tighter. Another task awaits you now, sweeping the inner corridor to remove the dust and petals carried in by the breeze. Not glamorous, but essential. You take the broom, its bristles made of stiff reeds, and sweep in slow arcs. The dust makes faint patterns before settling. The floor reveals its quiet shine. Your movements have their own rhythm. When you finish, the hall looks refreshed, its surface ready for the night watches. You step into the kitchen next. A pot of warm herbal drink has been left on the coals, the night brew as some call it. A mixture of chamomile, mint, and a hint of honey, made to soothe those who will keep vigil. You pour a small cup. Steam rises, soft and fragrant. It warms your palms. You carry the cup to the sanctuary and set it beside the watch stool. The flame flickers lightly, casting warm patterns across your hands. Another Vestal joins you. She looks weary but content, her veil slightly askew from the day's work. "Thank you," she says as she takes the cup. Her fingers touch yours briefly, a small human warmth. You sit beside her for a moment. No words needed. The flame speaks enough for both of you. The night gathers. The shadows lengthen. The air cools. You rise again to step outside. The temple courtyard is glowing softly in lamplight. The sky above is shifting toward deep blue. You walk beneath the columns, feeling the cool stone brush against your fingertips. The elder Vestal passes you. Her voice is soft. "Prepare yourself. Night will soon ask for your steadiness." You nod, and the evening folds into deeper darkness, calling you toward the quiet heart of the temple, where the flame waits, and the story of another night begins to unfurl. Night does not fall in a single motion over the house of the Vestals. It seeps in, delicately, like dark ink brushing across parchment. You feel it before you see it, the shift in air, the loosening of warmth, the way sounds soften into rounded shapes. The courtyard lamps glow like a cluster of quiet thoughts. The flame in the sanctuary burns low but steady, its heat pulsing in slow, even breaths. You walk beneath the colonnade with a small broom tucked under your arm and a folded cloth in hand, ready for the final round of tidying before the deep night watches begin. Your sandals press softly against the stone floor, leaving faint, dusty echoes behind you. The scent of evening herbs drifts in, mint cooled by dusk, basil softening under the night air, damp earth breathing out its day's memories. The temple absorbs these smells, blends them with the aroma of burning oil and warm stone, and exhales something uniquely its own. A fragrance of old rituals, steady warmth, and patient silence. You stop first in the inner hall where a few petals have scattered from an earlier garland. Their colors are muted now, and they cling to the floor like small, tired memories. You sweep them into a neat pile, enjoying the soft scrape of the broom bristles, an oddly calming rhythm. When you lift the petals into your palm, they feel weightless, almost shy. You place them carefully into a small clay dish meant for compost, letting them join the countless offerings that have lived quiet lives before returning to the earth. As you return the broom to its storage corner, a young temple attendant passes you, carrying a folded cloth bundle. The bundle looks far too large for him, and he wobbles under its weight. "Careful," you murmur, reaching out instinctively. He steadies himself and gives you a grateful nod. His cheeks are pink from exertion. His hair is a hopeless mess of curls. "Thank you," he says softly. The laundresses scent fresh linens. "The shelves are to your left," you say. He nods, scampering toward them with the unsteady determination of someone trying very hard not to drop anything sacred. You smile faintly before continuing your route. In the corridor leading to the sanctuary, you find a small oil lamp flickering weakly. Its flame dances like a tired dancer, leaning sideways every few breaths. You kneel, adjust the wick, and add 3 drops of oil. The flame straightens immediately, growing into a soft, steady glow. These tiny moments, these soft, unimportant-seeming gestures, are what shape the temple's rhythm. You reach the sanctuary as the light outside fades fully into twilight. The sacred flame sways with a gentle confidence. Its reflection wavers across the polished bronze basin, splitting into a dozen small glimmers like miniature suns. A Vestal sits on the watchstool already, though it isn't yet her full shift. She holds a cup of warm herbal drink between her hands. Her posture is relaxed, shoulders loosened, as though she's letting the heat soak the last bits of daytime tension from her bones. She looks up at you with a peaceful expression. "You're early." "The flame seems calm tonight." "It often does," you say. "This hour suits it." She nods, sipping slowly. The steam curls upward, carrying the scent of chamomile and honey across the sanctuary. You take a moment to kneel in front of the flame. The heat touches your cheeks, warming them just enough to undo the chill of the hallway. You brush away a small curl of ash that has gathered at the hearth's edge. Your fingers move gently, as though smoothing a wrinkle from a loved one's garment. Once the flame is settled, you rise and step aside. There are other tasks awaiting you as night folds deeper. You return to the small antechamber where the evening incense is kept. The storeroom is dim but warm, its walls breathing faintly with the heat of the day. A basket of dried herbs sits open on the table. Lavender, rosemary, mint, each bundled neatly with thin twine. Your task is to prepare the incense for the deep night offering, a ritual as soft as a whisper but just as necessary as the louder ceremonies of daytime. You measure out tiny pinches of crushed lavender and mix them with dried rosemary needles. The scent rises delicately, filling the small space with a calming blend of floral sharpness and resin. You add a pinch of ground myrrh, its sweetness dark and earthy. The smell so rich it seems to warm the air around your hands. The mixture goes into a small clay bowl, its interior smooth from years of use. You hold the bowl in both hands for a moment, feeling its warmth, its weight, its quiet purpose. When you bring it to the sanctuary, the other Vestal nods in understanding. She sets her cup aside. You sit beside her for a breath or two, sharing the silence. Then she rises. "It's nearly time for the night shift to begin," she says. You nod. The night always begins in layers. A soft shift in tasks, a subtle lowering of voices, a deliberate slowing of movement. You step once more into the courtyard. The sky above has deepened into that rich blue-black that only early night possesses, still holding the faintest glow from the horizon. Stars begin to reveal themselves cautiously, as if testing the air. The lamps lining the courtyard glow like a trail of fireflies. Their reflections shimmer on the polished stone. The heat of the day has faded entirely now, leaving the air cool and fragrant. You take a slow walk along the garden edge. The herbs look darker now, their leaves glossy with dew. The mint releases a fresh scent when you brush past it. The rosemary emits a woody fragrance warmed by the memory of sunlight. You breathe deeply. A soft sound startles you. Not harsh, just unexpected. A low, rumbling purr. A temple cat emerges from behind a laurel bush, tail high, eyes golden in the lamplight. Cats wander freely here. The temple grants them quiet authority. This one circles your ankles once, rubbing lightly against your sandal. You crouch and let your fingers brush its fur. Warm, soft, slightly dusty from prowling corners you never see. You always appear at night, you whisper. The cat blinks slowly, then wanders off in a dignified sway of tail, as if acknowledging your greeting but unwilling to commit to further conversation. You straighten and continue your route. The temple feels wrapped in its own breath, a long, slow inhale that has not yet become an exhale. You know this hour well. It's the hour before true night, where the world seems to lean forward, waiting. You return to the sanctuary one last time before your shift begins. The flame dances brighter now, as though sensing the deepening dark. It throws a warm wash of orange across your face, across the polished marble, across the wide shadows that gather in the upper corners of the room. You sit on the stool. The warmth of the seat tells you the previous Vestal has only just left. You feel the lingering heat of her presence, her calm. You place your hands softly in your lap. Your breath steadies. Your eyes soften. The flame breathes. You breathe with it. The night opens itself to you, slow, warm, infinite, and you step into it, held by stone, guided by fire, anchored by quiet devotion. Night settles more fully now, smoothing its dark hand across the temple roofs, dimming the last stubborn traces of day. The sanctuary's glow becomes the heart of the complex. Steady, warm, watchful. You feel it even before you see it again. A presence rather than a light, a warmth that claims the corridors one breath at a time. Your shift has begun. You sit before the sacred flame, the low wooden stool cool beneath you. The air carries the scent of burnt resin, warm ash, and the faint sweetness of herbs crushed earlier for the deep night offering. You settle your hands in your lap, relaxing your shoulders. The flame's warmth brushes your cheeks like a quiet greeting. The temple around you is soft with shadow. The high ceiling disappears into darkness. Lamps flicker along the walls, giving the illusion of slow-moving figures dancing far above your head. Yet nothing moves but the flame. You breathe, slowly, steadily. For a few long moments, the world feels made of nothing but rhythm. Your breath and the flames flicker. Inside that small, shared stillness, your mind softens, your thoughts loosen, and the temple's silence stretches like warm cloth wrapped around your shoulders. A faint footstep interrupts the hush. A young Vestal approaches from the corridor. Her posture is careful, as though she fears to disturb the flame with her own presence. She carries a small clay bowl filled with crushed leaves, lavender, rosemary, and a pinch of mint. Their fragrance lifts into the air as she moves. "The scent mixture is ready," she whispers. You nod and take the bowl. The clay is cool, the herbs slightly rough beneath your fingertips. You place it on the low table beside the hearth, letting its fragrance join the night air. The girl lingers a moment, perhaps unsure whether she should go. Her eyes flicker to the flame, then back to you. "Is it always this quiet?" she asks. You consider your answer. Quiet is relative here. "It's quiet," you say softly, "but not empty." She seems to think about that as she bows slightly and retreats into the corridor, her footsteps swallowed quickly by the dark. You return your attention to the flame. It leans slightly to one side, as though listening to something only it can hear. When it straightens again, The logs sigh softly, releasing a breath of warm resin. Your body begins to adjust to the rhythm of the watch. Slower breathing, softer posture, a strange mix of alertness and calm that only this hour requires. After some time, minutes, perhaps longer, you stand for a short walk. Remaining still too long makes your limbs stiff, and the elder Vestal always reminds you that watchers must keep blood moving as surely as the flame keeps the city alive. You step into the corridor. The air is cool now, almost cold. The lamps burn low but steady, their flames trembling slightly in the drafts that slip through the temple's old stones. Shadows stretch in elegant lines along the floor, following your feet like silent companions. You reach the outer courtyard again. Moonlight coats the ground in pale silver. The herb beds look darker than before, their leaves glossy with dew. A soft breeze lifts the edge of your veil. You tilt your face to it, letting the coolness brush your skin. A welcome contrast to the sanctuary's warm breath. The night is deep, but Rome is never truly silent. Even now you hear faint murmurs beyond the walls. Someone's late footsteps, a dog barking twice and then giving up, the distant hush of river water shifting against stone. You walk toward the fountain. Its water is dark and still, reflecting a quiet fragment of moon. You dip your fingers in, cool, soft, shockingly clean, and touch the droplets to your temples. The night has a way of clearing your mind. After a moment, you return toward the sanctuary. As you walk, you pass one of the older Vestals moving slowly along the hall. She carries a small clay jar of oil. "Back already?" she asks quietly, her voice like warm sand. "The night feels deep tonight." "It does," she agrees. "Be gentle with yourself." She moves past you, her steps steady and unhurried. You watch her disappear around a corner, the lamp's glow slipping away with her. When you are back in the sanctuary, the flame greets you with its soft roar, not loud, but full of presence. You kneel beside it again, adding another piece of wood. The logs hiss softly. Sparks shimmer for a heartbeat, then dissolve. You sit once more on the stool, letting the warmth settle into your bones. A deep night task awaits you, the incense offering. You take the clay bowl from earlier and pinch a small amount of the herb mixture. Your fingers smell immediately of lavender and rosemary, sweet and sharp at once. You sprinkle the herbs into the flame. It responds like a living thing, a brief flare, a swirl of scented smoke, a deeper glow. The fragrance fills the sanctuary, soft lavender, dark myrrh, green rosemary, all merging into something warm and soothing. The smoke curls upward in slow ribbons, climbing into the dark heights of the room, like dreams lifting from sleeping minds. You breathe it in. You feel your shoulders drop another fraction. Your heartbeat slows. It is impossible not to soften in the presence of such warmth. Hours pass the way deep night hours always do. Not quickly, not slowly, but in a drifting rhythm that makes time feel like a silk thread unraveling quietly at your side. You stay present. You stay steady. You stay awake. Occasionally another Vestal appears, to check a lamp, to stretch her legs, to share a whispered word before vanishing again. But mostly it is you and the flame, the quiet companionship of warmth and breath. Near the darkest moment of the night, you hear something new, soft footsteps, careful and hesitant. A young acolyte peeks into the sanctuary, his eyes wide with awe. I was told to bring more wood," he whispers, though the bundle he carries is small. You nod, relieved by the quiet interruption. He steps closer, placing the wood by the hearth. His hands tremble slightly. "It's beautiful," he says, staring at the flame. "It's different at night." You agree. He hesitates. "Does it ever frighten you?" "Not anymore." He nods as if committing that to memory. When he leaves, you hear his exhale echo down the hall. You add one small log to the fire. Crackles softly. The warmth spreads. Your hands relax in your lap. The night deepens further. Your eyes grow heavier, but you stay awake, held in place by duty, and the flame's quiet strength. The sanctuary becomes a world unto itself. No past, no future, only fire, breath, and the slow drifting of thoughts softened by warmth. Eventually, another Vestal arrives. Your relief. She smiles gently. You did well. Go rest. You rise slowly, feeling the stiffness in your knees. You bow to the flame, its glow brushing your cheek one last time. The corridor is cool again as you step into it. Your body feels pleasantly heavy, like a vessel emptied of all unnecessary weight. You return to your chamber. The lamp is still unlit, the night too deep for it now. You lie down. The blanket settles around you. Your breath slows. Through the distant walls, you feel the flame's warmth lingering in memory. And you drift, held by the darkness, lulled by silence, wrapped in the temple's gentle breath. Morning arrives like a visitor who knocks softly before entering. Polite, unhurried, almost hesitant. You feel it long before your eyes open. The thinning of night around you, the faint cool brightness spreading across the chamber walls, the quiet shift in the temple's breathing. You let your eyelids lift slowly. The chamber is a soft gray, the kind of light that feels like a whispered invitation rather than a command. The blanket around your shoulders is warm from your body heat, and when you sit up, the wool rubs gently against your skin with its familiar rasp. The air smells faintly of stone cooled overnight, linen that rested, and the slightest ghost of the sacred flame's smoke drifting through hidden corridors. You rise, smoothing your veil over your shoulders. The fabric is cool, softened by sleep and quiet. Your feet meet the stone floor with a small shock of coolness that wakes you fully. Outside your door, the corridor holds the early morning's hush. The lamps have burned low. A few flicker with tiny, stubborn flames. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of fresh water, damp floor dust, and the mild bitterness of extinguished oil. You walk softly toward the sanctuary. When you arrive, the flame greets you with its early morning shape, smaller, gentler, but glowing with renewed warmth from the wood added shortly before dawn by another Vestal. The light flickers in quiet arcs, coloring the surrounding marble in pale gold. A Vestal from the final night shift sits with her back straight but her eyes heavy. She rises as you enter, offering a small nod. "It slept well," she says softly, and then, correcting herself with a faint smile, "as well as a flame ever sleeps." You take her place. She walks away slowly, her steps drifting like a leaf in a calm river. The sanctuary feels cool now, touched by the first drafts of morning air seeping through the vents above. The flame's warmth cleans the chill from your hands when you hold them near. This dawn is quiet, softer than most. You feel it in your bones. Your first task is the morning tending. You kneel, brushing away the thin layer of ash that has settled. The ashes are cool at their edges but still warm near the center, like embers dreaming of life. The smell of them rises softly, a scent of burnt wood, old resin, and something faintly sweet. You add a piece of kindling, watching the flame brighten. It stretches upward like someone waking from a peaceful rest. When your hands are steady and the flame is comfortable, you stand and move to the purification basin. The basin holds fresh water drawn before sunrise. It is cool, almost cold. Your fingers tingle when they enter it, as if the water carries the last breath of night. You touch your forehead with the droplets, letting the chill graze your skin. It wakes you better than words could. Footsteps echo down the corridor as you complete the purification. Two younger Vestals appear, their veils slightly askew, their faces soft with sleepiness. They bow to the flame, rubbing their arms against the lingering coolness of the hour. "It feels colder today," one whispers. You nod. Some mornings carry more night in them than others. Together, you move toward the courtyard to prepare for the early day tasks. The courtyard is washed in pale golden light. The sun has just begun to climb, and its rays slip through the columns like cautious fingers. The herbs glisten with dew. The air smells of fresh basil, cool mint, wet soil, and the sweet greenness of a new day. One girl bends over the rosemary bed, checking the stems for pests. Another sweeps the walkway, her broom creating soft, brushing rhythms. You take a moment to help gather dew-heavy leaves into a small basket for later drying. The leaves cling to your fingers in small droplets. They smell like morning. When the elder Vestal arrives, her expression is calm, her movements steady. She looks over the courtyard, nodding approval at the orderliness. "We will have visitors today," she says softly. "A senator's wife seeks counsel. Prepare the small chamber." You bow your head and proceed. The small consultation chamber is simple, just a wooden bench, a low table, and a small carved niche holding a lamp. You light the lamp, its flame springing to life with enthusiasm. Its glow warms the room immediately, countering the morning cool. You spread a fresh cloth across the table. Straighten a small bowl of herbs. Adjust the lamp's wick. Open the ventilation slit to let fresh air drift in. By the time the senator's wife arrives, draped in fine fabric, though her eyes carry a tired heaviness, the room feels calm enough to hold whatever she brings. You watch from the corner as the elder Vestal speaks with her. Their voices are soft, measured. Occasionally the woman's hands tremble in her lap. Sometimes her eyes lift toward the flame in the niche as if looking for permission to be honest. You don't listen closely. It isn't your place. You only remain a presence, quiet and steady. When she leaves, she carries herself more lightly. The elder Vestal closes her eyes for a moment afterward, letting stillness settle around her like dust after movement. "Prepare the offering for midday," she tells you gently. Her voice is controlled, but you see the weight of compassion resting in her shoulders. You return to the sanctuary as morning deepens. Inside, the flame burns stronger now, responding to the warmth creeping into the temple. You gather the grains, the thread of saffron, the small amount of wine, and the piece of bread for the offering. Your hands know these motions well. The light, careful touch, the even pour, the precise placement. When the ritual begins, the sunlight has finally touched the upper part of the sanctuary wall. The flame catches the light and seems to glow from within, as though returning the morning's kindness. You stand with the others, listening to the elder Vestal's words. They fall slowly into the room, like warm dust settling. The grain falls, the wine steams, the bread warms, the saffron darkens, and something inside you settles too. After the rite, you carry the empty vessels to the side room for cleaning. The water there is warmer now. Your fingers soften in it. The afternoon picks up its rhythm. You help prepare the herb bundles that will dry for winter use. You arrange linens in tidy stacks. You accompany 2 Vestals to the outer chamber where offerings brought by families are catalogued. Dried figs, olive branches, small coins for the temple's upkeep. Each item feels like a small piece of someone's hope. Later, you walk along the outer walkway, letting your fingers brush the stone. The sun warms your skin now. Birds hop along the roof edges. Rome begins to hum again, a low, familiar murmur. A merchant's voice rises. A child calls out. Pot clinks against another pot. A distant dog barks 3 times and is answered by another. All of it feels distant, a world outside your world, and yet connected. In the afternoon, you help with records again. A scribe brings a tablet with numbers slightly smudged. He apologizes too much. You reassure him softly. The elder Vestal stands beside you, her hands folded, her gaze steady. "You are learning the temple's pace well," she says. You lower your head, humbled. "You move with it," she continues. "Not ahead of it, not behind." You carry those words with you. As you return to the sanctuary in the late afternoon, the flame burns bright, stretching long shadows across the floor. You sit beside it, letting its warmth seep into your palms, letting its steadiness echo in your breath. Evening is approaching again, slowly, inevitably, gently, and you feel ready for whatever the temple asks next. The afternoon folds itself gently into early evening, the way a soft cloth folds over the edge of a table, slow, deliberate, effortless. You feel the shift in the air first, a cooling at the edges of shadow, a faint stirring of breeze through the colonnade, the quiet thinning of sunlight sliding across the stone. You've just finished your work in the records chamber and step back into the corridor. The air is warm, touched by the temple's gentle hum. Light stretches long and golden across the marble floor, tapering into violet as it touches the far wall. Your shoulders relax. This hour always loosens something inside you, a knot you didn't know was tied. You make your way toward the sanctuary to check the flame once more before the evening preparations begin. This glow reaches you even before you cross the threshold. Steady, warm, living. It flickers in slow arcs, sending ripples of gold along the stone. As you enter, another Vestal stands nearby, adjusting the wood with a practiced hand. She glances over her shoulder. "It's behaving well today," she says softly. You kneel beside the hearth, adding a careful pinch of fresh kindling. The flame accepts it with a soft papery sigh, a brief flare, then settles into a calmer posture again. You remain there for a moment, staring into the deep orange center. The warmth on your face is gentle, not demanding. The scent is comforting: warm ash, dried resin, clean wood. Then the elder Vestal calls from the corridor. "Come," she says. "We must prepare the outer altars for evening." You follow her through a series of side passages that lead to the outer courtyard. This courtyard is smaller, tucked into the corner of the temple grounds, partly shaded by a vine-covered wall. The air is cooler here, scented with faint ivy, damp stone, and the residual fragrance of old offerings. The outer altars are modest stone blocks, each smoothed by time, each with a shallow carved bowl where small offerings are placed. The elder gestures toward the bowls. "Dust gathers quickly," she says. "We clear it before night." You take a folded cloth from the basket beside her and begin the task. Dust lifts easily, like a sigh leaving the surface. In the carved grooves, tiny fragments of dried herbs cling stubbornly. You brush them out gently with your fingertips. The light dims slowly as you work. Soft shadows slip in around you, settling over the courtyard. Above, the sky turns into a pale wash of blue-gray. When you finish, your hands smell faintly of minerality and herbs. You look toward the elder Vestal. She inspects the altars with a thoughtful eye. "Well done," she murmurs. Before you can reply, a soft voice reaches you from the walkway. "Excuse me," says one of the younger girls, a shy acolyte whose sandals seem to always slap the ground with too much enthusiasm. "The kitchen asked for someone to fetch the herb water. They're preparing the evening brew." You nod and rise. The kitchen sits near the eastern end of the complex, where the walls stay cool longest. When you enter, the familiar warmth of the stone ovens greets you gently. The air smells of cooling bread, steam, and a hint of honey from earlier preparations. One of the cooks hands you a clay jug. Steam rises faintly from its opening. "Herb water," she says. "Still warm. Be careful." You cradle the jug with both hands, feeling its heat seep into your palms. As you carry it through the corridor, the scent lifts. Mint, sage, rosemary, all softened by boiling into a mellow fragrance. You bring it to the dining room, where the Vestals will gather later. You set it on the long stone table, adjusting its position so it sits centered between the cups. The room is dim now, lit only by 2 lamps. Their light wavers gently on the walls. You take a moment to look out one of the high windows. The sky has darkened further, fading into indigo. The first star appears, a tiny pinprick of silver against the wide, darkening canvas. You breathe in. Evening has arrived. Returning to the courtyard, you see the elder Vestal waiting for you with a small clay bowl in her hands. "It is time for the twilight offerings," she says. The twilight offerings are simple but deeply symbolic. A few grains of barley, a drop of wine, a touch of oil, all to honor the transition from day to night. You follow her to the sanctuary once more. Inside, the flame now glows brighter relative to the dimming world. Its warmth feels more vivid. Shadows lengthen across the marble floor in graceful silhouettes. The elder Vestal places the bowl in your hands. "You shall offer tonight," she says. You blink, surprised. "It is usually." "I know," she says with a soft smile. "But some nights call for a different hand." You bow your head. With slow steps, you approach the flame. The bowl feels warm, though you know it isn't. Your heartbeat slows to match the rhythm of the fire. You pour the grains. A soft whisper. Then the wine. A faint sizzle, its scent blooming briefly. Then the oil. A quiet gleam of light as it touches the coals. The flame rises. Not dramatically, but with a gentle acknowledgement, as though thanking you. Behind you, the elder Vestal speaks the words of the twilight blessing. Her voice is calm, even. It carries through the sanctuary like a soft wind moving through tall grass. When the final words fade, the moment settles. You place the empty bowl aside, feeling a calm glow in your chest, the kind that comes rarest and warms longest. The sanctuary shifts again. The flame leans slightly, as if preparing itself for the night ahead. The elder Vestal touches your shoulder lightly. "Good," she murmurs. "You carry the evening well." You aren't sure how to respond, so you bow your head once more. As night deepens, tasks become slower, quieter. You help place fresh oil in the lamps of the outer hall. You help fold a stack of linens warm from the drying stones. You speak softly with another Vestal who worries she'll forget a line of a ritual tomorrow. You reassure her gently. She smiles. The temple grows more shadowed with each passing minute. Stars sharpen in the sky. A frog croaks faintly in the garden's water basin. The herbs grow heavy with dew again. Finally, you return to the sanctuary to begin the first watch of the night. Your body knows this rhythm well now. The flame glows. You sit. Your breath softens. The world narrows to fire and stone, to warmth and breath, to duty and quiet. And night unfurls its dark wings over Rome, over the temple, over you. Calm, slow, steady. Night gathers at the edges of the sanctuary, folding quietly inward like a great dark curtain being drawn by invisible hands. The flame becomes the center of the world again, glowing with a warm steadiness that feels almost like a pulse. You settle onto the stool, smoothing your veil, letting your breath find its slow nighttime rhythm. This hour is yours. The temple has begun its deep descent into silence. Even the distant murmur of Rome has softened. Fewer footsteps, fewer voices, fewer carts rattling along the streets. Only the whisper of wind drifting through the high vents breaks the stillness, carrying with it the scent of cold stone, night herbs, and the faint metallic tang of the city settling into its own sleep. You adjust a small piece of wood in the hearth. The flame responds with a gentle lift, inhaling the new fuel. A few sparks dance upward, vanish, and leave behind a faint trail of warmth. You sit again, hands folded loosely in your lap. Your fingers smell of resin and lavender dust. Your shoulders relax in the heat of the hearth. The sanctuary seems to breathe with you. Time here behaves differently, stretching, thinning, curling around the edges like soft wool. There is no urgency, no rush, only presence, only the warmth of fire and the cool of stone. Footsteps approach, slow and unhurried. A tall Vestal enters, her silhouette framed by the faint lamplight from the corridor. She moves with the calm certainty of someone who has walked these halls for decades. She pauses beside you. "The night feels gentle," she says quietly. You nod. "It does." She studies the flame for a moment. "It's strange," she murmurs. "How the quietest nights often feel the most alive." You understand. The flame crackles softly, as though agreeing. After a moment, she leaves you to your watch. You let your gaze settle on the flame again. Its movements are small but mesmerizing. A slow lean, a subtle curl, a rhythmic rise and fall. Your mind drifts, not to memories or worries, but to sensations. The warmth on your shins, the coolness across your back, the faint mint lingering from the herbs sorted earlier, the soft pressure of the stool beneath you, the hush of night pressing comfortably against the walls. A soft sound pulls your attention, not loud, just unexpected. A shift of fabric, a hesitant breath. A young acolyte steps into the sanctuary, hugging a folded blanket to his chest. His hair is rumpled, and he looks as though he's trying very hard to appear more awake than he feels. "Is this a good time?" he whispers. You nod gently. He crosses the room, placing the blanket on a small bench near the wall. The laundry mistress said this one needed mending before morning. He explains, though his voice falters. You can tell he is nervous simply being here. You rise, taking the blanket from the bench and examining the hem. A single seam has come loose, likely from being washed too vigorously. Thank you for bringing it, you say softly. The acolyte hesitates, glancing toward the flame. It looks different at night, he whispers. You follow his gaze. The flame's glow stretches deeper, warmer. Its shadows longer. It feels more intimate somehow. More aware. It does, you agree. He nods once, then hurries out, his footsteps fading like a small wave retreating down a calm shore. You return to your place, folding the blanket neatly beside you to mend later. The flame crackles. The air shifts. This moment belongs entirely to the night. You feel it when you close your eyes for a breath. A gentle hum beneath everything, as if the temple has a heartbeat. You open your eyes again, letting the warmth draw your awareness back. Hours pass in slow, steady movements. You rise occasionally to stretch your legs, your steps making soft whispers on the stone floor. You circle the sanctuary, checking the lamps, adjusting one wick, adding a drop of oil to another, lighting a flame that has grown too faint. The small tasks bring a quiet satisfaction. When you sit again, the world has grown stiller. Even the breeze through the vents seems to hold its breath. This is the deepest part of night. You feel it in the temperature, cold air pressing gently against your shoulders. You feel it in your limbs, heavier, slower. You feel it in your thoughts, softened, drifting, peaceful. Another Vestal approaches, carrying a small clay cup. Warm brew, she whispers, offering it to you. Steam curls upward. Mint, honey, chamomile, blending into a soothing cloud. You sip it slowly, letting the warmth spread through your chest and stomach like a small blossoming fire of its own. Thank you, you say. She sits for a moment beside you. Neither of you speaks. The flame speaks for you both. When she departs, you feel the remaining warmth of her presence. Like an echo, you set the empty cup aside. Your hands smell sweet now, the honey scent lingering on your skin. For a while, you think of nothing. Then something stirs at the edge of your vision. A flicker of white near the sanctuary entrance. The temple cat strolls in with regal indifference, its fur glowing like pale silk in the firelight. It circles the hearth slowly, sniffing each shadow as if inspecting the nocturnal order. When it reaches your stool, it sits directly at your feet, curling its tail neatly around its paws. You smile softly. The cat closes its eyes halfway, accepting your presence with the same gentle tolerance you extend to the flame. It stays with you, a quiet companion for a quiet duty. Time drifts again. At some point, the cat rises and leaves without ceremony. You don't notice the exact moment, only the warmth of its absence when you glance toward the entrance. You adjust another piece of wood. The flame brightens. You breathe with it. Eventually, the faintest hint of dawn begins to touch the air. Not light yet, not warmth yet, just a thinning of the dark, like ink washing slowly from a page. Your watch is nearly done. Another Vestal enters, your relief for the next cycle. Her face is calm, though her eyes show signs of recent sleep. She kneels before the flame for a moment, whispering a silent greeting. You may rest, she says softly. You rise, your knees stiff but your heart steady. You bow your head to the flame, your silent goodbye until the next duty calls. The corridor feels colder now as you step into it. Your body carries the warmth of the sanctuary like a memory pressed into your skin. You walk slowly toward your chamber, the lamps fading behind you. Your room is dim, the early breath of dawn barely perceptible along the far wall. You lie down, pulling the blanket over your shoulders. It smells of wool, stone, and the faint sweetness of chamomile. Your eyes close easily, and you drift, smoothly, gently, deeply, into the first hours of rest. The flame burns on, its warmth echoing in your dreams. Dawn creeps into your chamber in thin, silvery strands, the kind of light that seems to slip under doorways and settle quietly on the floor. You inhale before your eyes fully open, breathing in the faint scent of cooled stone, linen, and the gentle sweetness of last night's chamomile still clinging to your skin. Your mind rises slowly from sleep, like a soft tide retreating from the shore. You stretch beneath the blanket, feeling the satisfying pull of rested muscles, the slight stiffness from sitting long hours by the flame. When your feet touch the floor, the stone greets them with a cool kiss. You rise, adjusting the folds of your veil until they fall neatly over your shoulders. You smooth the fabric against your chest, feeling its fine texture, clean, lightly perfumed from dried herbs stored nearby. Outside your chamber, the corridor holds its early morning quiet. Lamps flicker with the last of their oil. The air is thin and fresh, carrying the soft mineral scent of dew settling on the temple walls. You breathe it in, letting it rinse the last fragments of sleep from your mind. The sanctuary calls you next, as it always must. When you enter, the flame glows with its morning calm. Smaller but warm, its movements gentle and steady. The Vestal who kept the last watch stands as you approach. Her face is soft with fatigue but bright with accomplishment. "It was peaceful," she says. You nod, grateful for those words. Peaceful nights are gifts. You kneel before the flame. Your hands move almost without thought, brushing aside cooled ash, checking the coals beneath, adding a measured piece of dry wood. The flame stretches taller, inhaling the new offering with a soft hiss. The warmth touches your face, smoothing away the lingering coolness of dawn. Its scent rises, warm resin, dry wood, clean smoke, an aroma that has woven itself into every moment of your life here. When the tending is done, you move to the purification basin. The water is cold, almost startling. You dip your fingers in, the chill racing lightly up your arm. You touch your forehead, whispering your breath against the cold. A few other Vestals enter behind you, stretching their arms, yawning quietly, whispering their observations about the weather and their dreams. One remarks softly, "The sky looked pink from the rooftop. Perhaps it will rain tonight." Another replies, "Or perhaps the gods just enjoy color before breakfast." They smile at each other in that slow, half-awake way of early morning. The courtyard awaits you next. Stepping outside feels like entering a painting, soft light spilling through columns, shadows stretching long and thin, herbs glistening with dew. The air smells of wet earth, mint bursting with freshness, cool laurel, and a hint of basil warmed by first light. You kneel to inspect the mint bed. Droplets cling to your fingertips when you brush the leaves. The coolness seeps pleasantly into your skin. You gather a few sprigs for the kitchens, placing them gently into a small woven basket. Nearby, two acolytes sweep the walkway with slow, rhythmic strokes. Their brooms whisper across the stone, creating a hushed music in the morning air. A squirrel, bold, perhaps blessed by its own small gods, hops along the edge of the garden wall, pausing to inspect you with bright curiosity. You tilt your head slightly in silent greeting, and it flicks its tail before darting away into the laurel. The elder Vestal joins you not long after. "Prepare the inner room," she says. "A small ritual will be held at midday. We must ensure clarity. Clarity is a quality the temple treasures. Clean surfaces, clean thoughts, clean transitions between duties." You head to the inner room, a small but beautiful space with a carved ceiling and a single round window that lets sunlight fall in a perfect circle across the floor. You begin by sweeping away the fine dust of yesterday. The broom moves silently, guided by your breath. The dust gathers in small, compliant clouds. Then you wipe the stone table with a damp cloth. The cloth cools your palm. The table warms it. The mixture creates a calming middle ground. Next you arrange the small ceremonial tools. A shallow bronze bowl polished to a soft glow. A wooden ladle carved smooth by decades of hands. A sprig of dried laurel placed crosswise for symbolism. A pinch of barley grain. When the elder Vestal comes to review the space, she nods approvingly. Her nods are small, but they hold the weight of entire seasons. "Good," she murmurs. "Now help prepare the midday bread." You follow her to the kitchen. The air inside is warmer, already filled with the scent of rising dough, yeast, olive oil, and the sweet undertone of grain. The cook hands you a small portion of dough. Feels soft, pliable, pleasantly warm. Your fingers sink into it easily as you fold and shape it into a modest round loaf. For the offering, the bread must be simple. No herbs, no embellishments. Just flour, water, and patience. You place the shaped loaf on the warming stone. The heat radiates gently upward. You feel it through your palms even after you step away. The cook smiles at you with a knowing kindness. Your shaping is improving, she says. You bow your head slightly. A compliment in the kitchen is worth far more than flattery elsewhere. By late morning, the temple is fully awake. The soundscape changes. Soft chatter from the courtyard, footsteps moving from hall to hall, the faint clink of clay vessels, the brush of linen being folded, the low hum of a chant in the distance. When the midday ritual begins, you stand with the others in the prepared inner room. Sunlight spills through the round window, forming a perfect circle of light that touches the floor like a gentle blessing. The elder Vestal conducts the rite. Her voice is steady, practiced, humble. The offering is small grain bread, a few drops of wine. The moment is simple, but simplicity is its own kind of devotion. Afterwards, you help clean the tools, the scent of barley and warm bread lingering faintly on your hands. You carry the empty bowl back through the corridor. Your footsteps are soft. Your breath is slow. The afternoon ahead feels calm, steady, inviting. You step into the courtyard again and sit on a low stone bench beneath a column. The shade is cool. The surface is smooth beneath your hand. A breeze lifts your veil. You close your eyes briefly. The temple breathes around you, soft, unhurried, patient, and you breathe with it. Evening returns with the softness of a familiar blanket, the kind woven from repetition and warm air. The house of the Vestals exhales into the hour, settling its stones, adjusting its shadows. You walk slowly beneath the colonnade for what you know will be your final round of the day, your sandals brushing the floor with a rustle like dry leaves. The flame has been tended, the altars wiped clean, the courtyard swept of petals and dust. Every corner of the temple carries a small trace of you. Your steps, your breath, the warmth of your hands on stone and linen. None of it is dramatic, none of it loud. But this place remembers softness just as faithfully as fire. You pause near the herb beds, letting the coolness of dusk brush your face. The mint smells darker now, the rosemary sharper, the basil warmer. Dew gathers on the leaves again, beating into gems that catch the last of the dying light. A quiet thought passes through you, that tomorrow these same leaves will glisten again, and the flame will rise again, and the stone will breathe again, and you will walk through it all as though slipping into a familiar, gentle tide. When you re-enter the sanctuary, the flame greets you with its evening posture. Steady, tall, content. It feels less like a duty tonight and more like a farewell nod from an old companion. One last piece of kindling rests beside the hearth. You place it gently, catches with a soft whisper. A warmth that is not heat settles in your chest. You sit on the stool for a final moment, letting your body memorize the details. The warmth on your knees, the faint crackle beneath the flame's breath, the shadow of your own veil on the stone floor, the calm weight of the temple around you. A quiet step approaches. The elder Vestal moves into the glow, her expression soft, softer than usual, touched with something like approval. "You've carried the day well," she murmurs. Her voice settles into the space like a slow, comforting blanket. You bow your head, not out of obligation but out of gratitude. The kind you feel in your ribs, slow and warm. She steps closer, lowering her voice even further. "The flame remembers hands like yours," she says. "And so does Rome." It's not a grand statement, not a proclamation, but it settles deep. She leaves you to your quiet. You rise, offering the flame a final nod. The room feels timeless in that moment. Stone, shadow, fire, breath. As though every day you've lived here is layered gently on top of this one. When you step into the corridor, the night air greets you, cool, calm, carrying the promise of rest. Your chamber welcomes you with its smallness, its softness, its familiar sense of wool and linen. You sit on the edge of your narrow bed for a moment, listening to the faint sounds of the temple settling into night. A closing door, a distant footstep, the flutter of a lamp. You lie down. The blanket folds around you. Your breath slows. Your limbs ease into the quiet hum of exhaustion softened by purpose. Somewhere beyond your door, the sacred flame continues its slow breathing, steady, faithful, alive. And as your eyes close, you feel that warmth still resting on your skin. Not heat, just memory. The temple breathes. Rome exhales. And you drift, slowly, peacefully, into sleep, held by stone, guided by fire, and wrapped in the gentle, endless night of ancient Rome.